I'm being repressed by this evil Christian man. He's telling me that I'm a nihilist and I'm a woman because I don't want a personal God. Personal gods are mean and they judge me, and I don't want to be judged for having sex with 50 men before I'm 24 years old. All right, sorry. Let's go ahead.
Yeah,
I think somebody's watching us
it's
now.
the evil will,
Wow.
isn't it? That's the exact conversation everybody has with themselves.
Don't judge me. I don't need to be
The
judged.
chief virtue of the modern age is acceptance, but that acceptance goes out of the window if someone actually believes in something.
Well, tell me about your virtue, Mister God Man. You talking to God every day, trying to go there and tell everybody else what to do. What about you? Why don't you look in
My
the mirror?
virtue is to be an anti-nihilist.
What about pro something? Don't you got to be pro something? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
You're falling while you're standing. How about that, boy?
Do you ever notice the amount of slogans that we have in America?
Slogans?
Yeah, like these colors don't run, and you know, you you yeah.
Well, uh, you know, in a nation that's founded on propaganda techniques, you're going to have a few slogans. A Freemasonic experiment.
Well, that's just because you're you're a Bible worshiper.
I've been thumping it.
You like dadgum Protestants over there. So okay, so now that you've actually gotten like a good heavy dose of Andrew Wilson and Dyer and what else, Jim Bobby and these people. What's your real like hardcore opinion? Like, do you think that they're aware of what they're doing totally, or do you
Yes.
think like a very confused group of people?
No, I think they're aware of it, and I'll tell you why. Um, because Dyer, especially Dyer, he's aware of true orthodoxy because he was like a set of a contest or something, and this is
Which is like a Catholic without a pope, if I remember what
what they
Shane
what
said.
they that's what they claim. That's what the Orthodox say that true Orthodox are. They say, "Oh, you're just Orthodox set of a contest, right?" Which it's not true because we actually have a priesthood, whereas SETIs don't have a priesthood. So they're kind of like just like an idealistic, which it's true. Some of the things they say is true. Like, I think it's like the Pope hasn't been around. There hasn't been a Pope on the throne for this many years. Well, we're just saying it's been a little longer than that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
1054. You get what I'm saying? But
yeah.
it, the difference between us, yeah, there's no priesthood there, and that prior to 1920, everyone believed as we do. After 1920, you have the new calendars and all these other people. So it's like, no, we're just continuations of proper Orthodox hierarchies. This is the different mindset, and they know this, and they're choosing to ignore it because, for one, they believe that the mainstream narrative is true because it is, quote, official. And they conflate officialness with truth, and that's asking to be deceived by the devil, right? If
Well, they're
coming off of
basically like
appearance.
they're basically like, look at here on this piece of paper. It says it right here, just like in the Bible, and it's like a weird like
Right,
hillbilly logic or something. It's like,
right. Well, they use the term canonical, right? And they're trademarking the term. But this is the confusing aspect. For most people, it would be confusion, right? Because it's like, see, these were the historical buildings that the Orthodox Church has always owned. And these are the historical seas that the Orthodox have always been involved in. Well, if you go to like Saint Mark of Ephesus, Saint Maximus Confessor is a good example. It was like 3 patriarchates were taken over by heretics, and he broke communion with them because of that, until they returned to orthodoxy, right? Because they started following the monotho elites, right? So, anyways, this has historically happened, where historical sees have been taken over by heretics, and the Orthodox have broken communion with those people. They're basically stating that that can't happen now, right? That we're just in modern times, and that can't happen to us. It's a stupid thing, but they know it's happened, but they just are in such a cognitive bias and in such a echo chamber that they can't accept it, and they've gone off the propaganda that says that the genuine Orthodox or true Orthodox are schismatics. So they know that their patriarchs are heretics, but they've convinced themselves that they have to stay under them and quote fight from within. But there is no fighting from within. If the Synod of
Like
Bishops is about this, what can you do?
wouldn't you say that's like a very Masonic view of things in a way? Like, I'm not trying to like directly
No, of course it is.
accuse anybody of being a Mason, but it does sound like a Masonic.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is a Masonic thing because the ecumenists are Masons. That's who's in control of the patriarchates. The Masons have ascended those hierarchies. They've gotten in control of those synods.
So what the Southern Israelite guy said, because I kind of asked him some questions. I'll have to send you that link. But which one?
Southern Israelite, because he brought up the World Council of Churches. He's right.
Well, like I asked him a few questions. Did you hear what I asked him? The questions I asked him.
No, I didn't hear that.
No, it's okay. I was just curious. But next time he goes live, I think we can try to get you to talk to him, because he's definitely done a lot of research. So I do respect that. But like, anyways, the long story short of what he was saying is something to the effect of like, well, if the Masons were in charge totally, then it would just be like for whites by whites. But because it's basically the Knights of Malta, the Catholic Church, and the Jews running them, that's why they're just being used as pawns, and they've gotten all the whites out of Masonry and trying to replace them with like blacks and Filipinos and Mexicans and stuff like that. So it's kind of an interesting argument he's making. He's basically saying like the Catholics are anti-white. They've always been trying to like basically use whites as like cannon fodder for their wars of attrition against the world, and during cahoots with the Knights of Malta and the Jews to basically like be parasitical off of whitey and the rest of the world, essentially, and they just see whites as like the biggest threat.
No, I don't agree with that. I think that's stupid. I think that to even put it in a race basis is falling into this communist, racial divide and racial tension, propaganda. I really think that the Catholics and the Knights of Malta and the Jays and the Protestants and the mainstream Orthodox are all a part of the humanist agenda to push Antichrist. Are they fully aware of it? No, they're just obsessed with idealism, progress, and these type of things. A kingdom of the world. Essentially, it's like we're tired of waiting for Christ, so we'll just make paradise as soon as possible. That's really what it is. I think that these types of thoughts are extremist thoughts and traps that have been laid by the communists, to play you. You know what I'm saying? And
well, let me make this argument. And again, because I understand what you're saying, I understand what he's saying, but let me just make it very clear for hopefully somebody who might listen in the future, even though nobody's listening right now. But would you say that the argument that Pinoy says that okay, so like we know that the Jays have a large responsibility for what communism
started out as and became, and et cetera, right? Would you also argue that the Catholic Church could equally be held accountable because they let all these philosophical idealisms and isms and schisms
Yeah,
take
but
over their minds and heart and stuff? Or
it's all one and the same because they're all pushing for an antichrist agenda. That
so
both sides of it,
it's
two
all
different
heretical. So
heresies.
it all funnels to the same thing. That's what you're
It
saying.
all
Okay.
funnels to Satan. That's who's behind it all, right? And there might be infighting amongst them who can achieve the whatever it is, but they're all going to achieve the same thing. It's all heading in the same direction, so it doesn't really matter if you say it's the Catholics or the Jays or the Protestants or whoever. If it's not true orthodoxy, it's heading for Satan, right? And that's point blank period. And that's, a lot of people don't like that, but it is what it is. And like, trust me when I tell you this, true Orthodox don't get off on that. Like, we're not like, see, we're the only ones right. You guys are all idiots. No, we're extremely depressed that the world has been subverted by, Satan, and we're watching it just burn and trying our best to like tell what people, they're running towards fire. And what do you do?
It's like you're watching those people who are like self-emulating, like, or whatever you call it. They're putting the gasoline on themselves and they're about to light it, and you're like, "Hey, that's the devil trying to get you to do that," and they're like, "Shut up, you mean Orthodox person, trying to save me from doing
Yeah,
this."
well, they're like, what do you think? You're the only one, right? You think you're the only, It's like no matter what you say, it's gonna come off, like, you're just one of many, and that's what Satan has created. He's created a myriad of sects and heresies so that the truth seems implausible, and that's a satanic strategy, a war strategy, used against the church, and it's been happening for a very long time. But if that's why you have to trace it back. That's why you have to know your history. Why you have to understand the doctrine that was taught from the very beginning and follow it to its very end. You can't just stop in certain places and get hung up on little like nitpicking over logical reasonable points in history, whatever, like, oh, a lot of people conflate like heresy with like a canonical violations and stuff like that. So it'll be like a canonical violation, or a saint said something stupid that wasn't completely correct or something. But they have an overly correct understanding of the world and an idealistic, like, oh, this should be perfect. They look at the church as if it should be perfect, but the reality is that the church is both human and divine, and we're the church militant, those on earth. The church militant is dealing with sin. The church in heaven doesn't deal with sin. They're already reached the goal, So there's perfection there, but we're never going to have perfection. We're going to have divisions and infighting and heretics ascending our hierarchies and taking over our buildings, and we're having to deal with that and start over again. It's a mess. But that's how
Well,
Satan seeps in.
I guess I'm trying to think of with this where you won't. I'm making a metaphor, but I'm going to try to make a metaphor. Let me know what you think. So, like, if you're going to war with Satan, what's the ammo? Is there ammo that you can take onto the battlefield, or is it just more people that have purified themselves? And what I mean by that is, like, you can't go and do violence. You can't just go and I mean, you can just go and say prayers, but I'm saying, like, you can't just go do exorcism on everybody on earth because you don't have the manpower, right? So and even if you could, is that the right thing to do? I don't know, but like, is there are we like in the courtroom of God's judgment essentially here on earth? Is that the way you portray it, or are we all like on an actual battlefield where people are dying eternally because of the choices or the darkening of their news heart, etc.? So, like, I guess I'm just looking for
I'll
like the
put it
best.
this way: there's no salvation outside of the church. And that's harsh to some people, but it is what it is. Is it truly harsh that Christ has given salvation at all? You know, that's the question. It's like these people want to participate in heresy and then be saved at the same time. What we're saying is that's not possible. You either believe as the church has always believed, or you're not in it. And those without God will deal with. And as far as I know, there's only salvation within the church. If God chooses to save somebody, it's not because they were professing a heresy, it's because of his mercy. And they would be joined to the church then. But other than that, no. I mean, I don't know. All this other stuff and you know, God flooded the world because of sin. He said he wouldn't do it again. But I mean, it seems to me like whatever's happening is our own doing. It's not God causing these people to go astray. It's these people that have gone astray, and God's just like, well, that's what you get, for not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And and even though us in the church, we're not perfect. We're barely Orthodox. We're hanging on by a thread. We're the worst Orthodox in history, and that but we're still Orthodox, right? And I've gotten to the point, at least within my own faith, like I want to be pastoral to the sense where I'm trying to almost sympathetic to it. But how can you be sympathetic to people when you tell them the issue and they continue, to burn themselves and head down the same path? And you could show them a million things, and it's like, right out of the scriptures, it's like, well, if they don't believe the prophets, then they're not going to believe. They're not going to believe even if the dead were raised, and that's the state people are in. They're so dark. They're so self-willed and egotistical and nihilistic and prideful. They don't want to hear the truth. They'll accept everything but the truth, right? So I mean, what can you do? When Christ comes, will there be faith on the earth? And the answer is no. Barely, very small amounts. And Orthodoxy will survive in the catacombs, or in small numbers of believers who are one in faith. And there might not even be churches. And maybe if there is, it's going to be like one bishop, one priest, one lay person. It's going to be very small number of people that are going to survive the times of Antichrist. We're already seeing where the mass amount of people have been led astray. They're so prideful that they don't want to hear the truth. They don't know what the truth is. They're not looking for the truth, nor do they care. So we don't know what to do. You pray. That's all you can do. And I don't know.
Would you go to Israel if your people sent you over there to go and?
I don't think we have any churches in Israel, but I mean, if I was to go there, I don't know. I probably, if they sent me, yes, because they asked me to, but I feel like I don't have to go anywhere else. I'm where I'm supposed to be. You know what I mean? I don't want to go to Mount Athos or some holy site, or this where I'm at is holy enough.
But have you ever seen the videos of the people like DPH and these other people who go to pilgrimage to Mount Athos and make it a thing? What do you have any thoughts on that, or not
Yeah,
really?
I think that okay, good for you. You went there, but are you getting closer to God by that act, or are you just kind of puffing yourself up the fact that you went to Mount Athos and someone didn't? I'll give you an example. Father Peter Harris. He used to say things to. I seen him in a comment section once on Facebook, and he was talking to Subdeacon Nectarius, who used to be a part of the Orthodox Ethos team. He was he wrote articles for him, and he was a part of their group, part of the business or whatever. But he said something. He said, "You never met any contemporary elders like I have on Mount Athos." And it's like, what?
Wow. Okay.
Okay, you met a contemporary elder, but you're so puffed up that your head's 3 times bigger from it. What good did it do? And the reality is, those supposed contemporary elders were made saints for political reasons, so the faithful would stay in communion with heresy. So what are you really doing, man? It's like, I think that it's bad to be mainstream Orthodox in any sense, because those two words shouldn't go together. You can't be mainstream Orthodox, and the fact that they're succeeding in the space, I think, shows that they're in untruth, and the devil has got them in some sense. And like, somebody might say, well, you're just jealous. It's like, am I really? I don't think that's the case. I really see it. The fact that they're succeeding in this space is meaning they're going off appearances, and the people that are following them are going off appearances, and they're being led astray.
Yeah, I'm gonna read some lyrics to you. We're gonna do a little shindig. We get some rules to follow. That and this, these and those, no one knows. We get these pills to swallow. How they stick in your throat, it tastes like gold. What you do to me, no one knows. And I realize you're mine, a fool am I. I realize you're mine, indeed a fool am I. I journey through the desert of the mind with no hope. I follow, I drift along the ocean, dead lifeboats in the sun. And come undone, pleasantly caving in, I come undone. Heaven smiles above me, what a gift here below, but no one knows that the gift that you give to me, no one knows. I'm trying to find stuff that's about Mason, so that's let's see. I haven't, yeah, here we go. This is the song I was looking for. Hold on. Let me bring the lyrics up. I don't know if I read this one to you or not, so if I have, just stop me. Can you hear me?
My bad, I muted myself. But your link says rub gay in it.
What?
Your YouTube link says gay in it.
Is it really? Oh.
Yeah. Where you share, go like to your chat and look, it says YouTube live, or you
It's
gay.
it's subliminal messaging, I'm sure.
Dude, did you mean to do that?
I don't think I had the choice, but maybe next time if they do give me the ability, I'll.
It literally says, or you gay.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah,
Let me look.
dude. It's ridiculous.
Why are they trying to play me like that, man? She. Let me see. Share the link. Copy the link. Let's put it over here. To all my 0 followers. Let me see. 0 people watching right now. Let's see. Oh yeah. Or you're be gay. Wow. YouTube playing me right now.
Play. All right. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but what were you saying?
No, it's okay. Oh, I'm reading lyrics by a famous filter anymore. A bitter pill to swallow. Maybe you're in a blanket haze of veterans. I'm wondering what it's been. So come on now and right this wrong. The rope. You've got it all right. You got a feeling. I'd rather open up. Let it go. All right, your noise is like really.
What?
Your background noise is like really loud. Sorry, I'm on my car. So.
My bad.
No, you're good. No, you're good. It's just it's just like scratching my head drums. But anyways, I don't think you heard the lyrics, so this might be a failed experiment here.
No, I'm sorry. I've been like zoning out every time you read them. I don't. Well, what was the
Well,
point?
Okay, so let me read these. Let me read this part. You got it all right. You got a feeling because the devil and ropes around your neck, cursing them all, and you can't hear it. So it reminded me of that video you sent me of the Mason stuff. You know, about the rope around your neck. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's a classic video, by the way. And at one time, it was on an account that like you could probably get to it, right? And now it's deleted, and that's like somebody re-uploaded it like 2 years ago or something. But it used to be on, and there was a bunch of Masons in the comments asking the person to take the video down. Please take the video down, brother. Like they were like, and yeah, I guess like it's revealing some
Well,
things they really don't want revealed because they were
well,
begging.
well. This is this guy's first album lyrics, Queens of the Stone Age. And then he says, ain't got a mind to deal with anymore, saboteur, infiltrator, and maybe more. If you're not blind and deaf, how can we pollute your head? So come on and right wrong with the rope. So it's like,
Yeah, Masonic, going after the masses for being, worthless eaters or something.
yep. And it's like, and then it reminds me of a heart-shaped box with, because I think I finally figured out what part of the song's about, because nobody ever talks about this. But like, let me go read this lyric real quick. She eyes me like a Pisces when I am weak, which I think when he says Pisces, he's talking about Jesus. I've been locked inside your heart-shaped box for weeks. I've been drawn into your magnet tar pit trap. Wish I could eat your cancer when you turn black. And I know that sounds like, I think that maybe people think it's reading too much into it, but the dude definitely knew the occult for sure. And then, hey, I got a new complaint forever in your debt for your priceless advice. And then me eating orchids, forgive no one just yet. Cut myself on angel hair and baby's breath. Baby's breath is a flower. Angel hair, I'm not exactly sure, but broken hymen of your highness. I think he's talking about Sophia.
Angel hair is pasta, bro. No.
Well, I know that, but then he says meat eating. But then he's like, so, but think about it. He's talking about flowers, me eating orchids. And then he says, cut yourself on angel hair and baby's breath. Angel hair might be another flower. But then he's like, broken hymen of your highness. I think he's talking about Sophia, because he said, throw down your umbilical noose so I can climb right back. Because the whole point of the noose around your neck is supposed to be like Sophia's umbilical cord or something like that.
Oh, so this is all like Freemasonic imagery or something.
I think it is, personally. I mean, I can't prove that, of course, but
Well,
like,
what's
that's kind of
interesting,
what I've come to conclude of.
is that the heart-shaped box was a box that was given to him by Courtney Love with like witchcraft items within it, like a love spell.
Right.
Have you ever seen that?
I've heard about it. I can't remember off the top of my head. I've heard a little bit about it, but I didn't know the details of like what was in the box.
Yeah, if you look up images of it, you'll see it. And like I've known chicks that are into like witchcraft or whatever, and I've gotten kind of like items like like marshmallow flour or whatever, you know what I mean, like weird incense and little bottles with ointments and love letters and stuff, whatever. But anyways, like they those weird indie chicks do stuff like that, and especially like from around that time period, people in the 90s. But there's witchcraft references within it, because I believe she gave him this box. And then you also have to think you're involved with MTV and like
Well, it
record
goes pretty.
industry.
I think it goes pretty deep because I think Cobain definitely was aware of some level of occultism on his own. I don't know where he picked it up from, but I'm pretty sure he was somewhat like self interested to some degree, but I don't know if it was a joke or what. But then what I know is that he got into Buddhism, but Courtney Love was a Nichiren Buddhist. And when he died, she put his ashes and hair into like dolls and shit. So she definitely was doing some sort of like weird shit.
Yeah.
And she also was into Scientology, and she was also into the process. I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure she was tied to the Process Church. But
Yeah,
again, I
I'm,
can't.
I'm sure he was too, because he was a big
Correct.
Beatles fan, I mean, it's like,
No, that's a
um,
good point.
right.
Well, and he wonders like maybe he did make a vow and he broke it or something. And that's kind of what I'm almost thinking. Like
Possibly, if you think
I
about
get the
it,
feeling that I get the feeling when I read about him, like if you look at how Dave Grohl and other people react, they act like basically like if you really watch how they react to it, they're like you could tell they're disgusted with him for some reason. And I don't think it's over money, personally. I think it's over like
like
I'm
he
trying
revealed a secret of the secret society or
or
something.
he broke some sort of I think he must have broke some sort of pact or something. I mean, I can't prove that, but that's my running theory that I think he wanted out of something he had gotten into.
I looked up Chris in the being a Freemason, and there's an interview with him, like it's a music interview, and the guy he's talking to has a leather jacket, and it's like a guy like it's probably like 39 or 42, something like that. The reason I'm telling you this is maybe you can find it, but I couldn't find it again. Like it's not easy to find. Um, but like in the interview, he's asked like, "Aren't you a Freemason?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm a Freemason." And then it like shows him a picture of him at a Masonic lodge with like older people. And it's he makes it out like he joined the Masonic lodge later in life, like when he got into politics. But I don't buy it.
I personally I don't either because like I just found this picture recently. I'll send it to you. Let me see if I can
Mm-hmm.
send it to you now. So Cobain never wanted to be overtly political, although because he wrote in his diary about he was disillusioned with it because he saw it as both sides like he very wisely saw that it was obvious that both sides were being played very
Like
towards a common.
Hegelian dialectic, this
Yeah,
sort of
he
thing.
didn't say it overtly, but he definitely heavily alluded that he came to that conclusion. But Chris really wanted to like use it as a platform to be like, I'm against this or I'm against that. And he
Yeah,
didn't
like
stop.
leftist ideology.
Right. And I don't think it bothered him because I think he said he just figured like, well, like it's good to at least like use it, but he was much more careful about it. But I found this picture that I think was not long before he died. Let me see if I could find it.
Oh,
And he
I'm about
was,
to use his grok to find that picture of Chris in the
yeah,
Masonic
do that.
lodge with years.
I think I tried to do it before and I couldn't find it, but see if you have better luck because I think I did try to do that before and I couldn't really find it. Let me see if I can find this picture. But yeah, but Chris was like heavily trying to do this stuff, and then Dave Grohl was whatever. And again, I'm 1,000% sure that Dave Grohl and Jack Black and all these people are they're definitely witches coming. Yeah, like I can tell you that for sure.
Oh, it says Chris Novoselic and Grange. Novoselic has been involved with the Grange Patrons of Hasbury, a fraternal organization founded in 1867 by William Kelly, who was a Mason. The Grange was established to support rural communities and farmers, and it adopted some Masonic influences, such as ceremonial work and fraternal structure. Novoselic has spoken positively about his involvement with the Grange and appreciating its inclusivity, historical connection, and its ceremonial aspects. He noted in a 2014 interview with Reason that Grange allowed women to hold any office, reflecting its progressive stance for the time. While Grange has Masonic roots, it is a distinct organization, and membership in Grange does not equate to being a Freemason. Nirvana performed at a Masonic temple. So it says in 1989, Chris and Novoselic's bass performed at the Sonic Temple, located at Masonic Temple in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. This event is documented in Nirvana's concert chronology term, the Masonic Temple. Here refers to a venue and a building used by Freemason meeting, which is sometimes rented out for public events like concerts.
Yeah, which they have you can always make the excuse, well, they just rent it out or whatever. But I mean, but still, like there's a lot of big bands that have played at Masonic, like huge giant Masonic temples. So I mean, but you know,
Yeah,
but
Bob Dylan, for instance, and
I'm
that's
sure
kind
if you look into it, well, like, well, like that.
the way to find that. I'm just realizing it now. Is you put in Chris Novoselic and then put in the Grange.
If you want to go down a weird rabbit hole, look up the, like, type in this question, for example. Type in, look at the occultism of Skinny Puppy.
What's up with that?
Oh, you'll see.
I guess Jim Bob's alive right now. Actually, you know what? I'm not finding. This is so weird. Like, this interview was like on a main, like, it was main feed type stuff. Like, you could easily find this interview, and now that you like look for it, it's almost impossible. Reason. Oh, I found it. No way, I found it. That's awesome.
Oh, it was filmed. There's no transcript or whatever.
I don't know, but I know it's in the interview. Like, he talks about, being a part of the Masonic Lodge, and like goes, well, he talks about the Grange, I guess. That's really what it is. But there is photos of him in like Masonic apron and all this stuff. But he relates it with politics.
Pragmatism. Sorry, I got people talking in the background. That's why I had to mute it. So, but are you looking something up?
No, I ended up finding you remember that interview I was telling you about. So, um,
It,
you
it's a
have that now.
YouTube. It's a YouTube video.
Yeah, I sent it to you. It's in the messages or whatever.
I'll, I'll
So,
I'll definitely look it up when I get a chance.
yeah.
Um,
So yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of that before, just using Grok, because Grok pinpointed it immediately, like where the interview was given. Is this Reason TV? But yeah, this was from 10 years ago, and he talks about why he dumped the Dems. Okay, so I guess he's a conservative now, but he was a Democrat for a long time, so he got caught into this false paradigm, of course. That's interesting that Kurt kind of seen that for what it was. But I mean, anything dealing with the music industry, like a good thing to kind of look into is that guy that was from New Zealand or like Australia or something that was on like, Australia's Got Talent, and he came out and exposed the whole thing because uh, they made him a Freemason. You know what I mean? So, but he ended up exposing it. So the music industry is definitely. And then you have like guys like that John Todd guy, like that came out and talked about the music industry and witchcraft, and it's a well known thing, man. I got 2 books that are on Freemasonry in front of me, and a third one I found downstairs that I plan on going through. There's so much stuff in here, dude. Like there's a whole thing on Freemasonry and police corruption. It's pretty cool. The mechanisms of social control, like Masonic Light, Resurrection, and Gnosis. Dude, this is crazy. I might start a series on Freemasonry and just like read these 2 books. One's by this guy, Martin Short, and it's called Inside the Brotherhood. And the first one's by Stephen Knight. It's called The Brotherhood. And the second one is a continuation of the first one, but the first guy passed away, and this other guy kind of continued his work. Oh, what? The KGB connection. I want to read this just for the love. It says, through an intermediary, I asked former KGB agent Ilya Gurvich Dizikovalov, I don't know how to say his name, who defected to the West in 1980 about Freemasonry. The Soviet authorities are well aware of the size and influence of Masonry in the West. Dizikovalov was based in Geneva for most of his 30-year career as a KGB agent, so was not in direct touch with the espionage activities in Britain. Switzerland's Grand Lodge, quote, Alpina, is based in Lausanne. The entire country has only 52 lodges, compared with London's 1,677. There are about 3,450 Swiss Masons. This Dirkovalov spoke of the vast scale of KGB espionage activities in the UK and said that if a Freemason was such an important part of the establishment, as I said, there was no doubt at all that the KGB was exploiting it, even to the extent of instructing its British recruits to become Masons. Among the current serving and former officers of both services I met was one much respected officer of the M16, recently retired, who was more cautious. We met next to a fish pond on the first floor of Quartz & Co. in the Strand of early 1982. He agreed to meet me only on the understanding that we did not discuss matters covered by the Official Secrets Act. He was not a Freemason. He said that he had never been aware that Freemasonry could be an advantage in government service. Not felt the need to become a Mason to advance his career. He added, but perhaps that is because I never thought about it. He told me that he had never come across the case of the KGB using Freemasonry in England, and added, but of course that does not mean it has not happened. The fact that he had never even considered such an obvious possibility did not surprise me. It seems that nobody prior to Chinaman had, even Sir George Young, former vice chief of M16, told me that the extent of his knowledge about Freemasonry was that the royal family are all in it. My contact pointed out that Freemasonry would not be used by a KGB agent as a cover, in the sense that Guy Borges joined the Anglo-German Fellowship before the war to conceal his communist sympathies, because by its very nature, membership of Freemasonry is not something one can boast about without giving rise to suspicion. He paused and set his mind to work on the problem. At length he said, quote, the records of Freemasonry in Tsarist Russia would have fallen into the hands of the Cheka, the KGB's predecessor in 1917. A close study of the Freemasonry would certainly have been made by Soviet intelligence officers then. If the KGB had a target in England, somebody they wanted to, quote, turn, or from whom they wanted to obtain information by one of a number of means, and this person was a Freemason, I have no doubt that it would instruct an agent to join the same lodge. That would be an obvious move. If being a Freemason makes a man more likely to bare his soul to another Freemason than to an outsider, there is ample evidence that this is the case. Any intelligence service worth its salt would exploit that. Once again, I have no evidence that this has happened. The fraternity most often exploited, of course, is the homosexual one. The Homintern, we used to call it. Homintern. Towards the end of our meeting, my contact said, is there any evidence of any of the known people were Freemasons? By people, he meant traitors, British subjects who had been recruited by the KGB, either before they were in position. Yeah, John Todd, for sure. Recruited by the KGB either before they were in position where they had access to delicate material while they were rising in their careers towards such a position, or that they had arrived. One case particularly bears examination. Few people in M15 now doubt that the Sir Roger Hollis, Director General of the service in the crucial year 1956 to 65, Director General of the service in the critical was a Russian spy for nearly 30 years. This had been convincingly demonstrated by veteran investigative journalist and espionage expert Chapman Pincher. The government, in the person of Margaret Thatcher, had denied this, and a number of Hollis's old colleagues have jumped to this defense, but their evidence is weak and contradictory. I shall not rehearse the case against Hollis here. It is proven beyond reasonable doubt that in the revised edition of Pincher's book, which has appeared in fuller form after various official attempts to discredit the evidence and arguments contained in the first edition, as one M15 officer of long standing confided to me, quote, "We've known about Hollis for years. Pincher has excellent sources within the service and an excellent brain. He is so close to the truth. Hollis was not a member of the Comintern. The same M15 source told me basically Hollis was certainly a Mason. Of course, the many mysteries surrounding Sir Roger Hollis, one of the most baffling is how he was ever to be accepted in M15 in the first place. He was quite the opposite of what was required. In M15 as opposed to M16, which operates abroad, there is a reluctance to accept candidates who have traveled widely out of the UK. In the 1930s, when Hollis was recruited, this stipulation was more easily met than it is today. For this and other reasons, Hollis was a most unlikely recruit. Doing badly at university, he threw in the towel in 1926 after 2 years. He worked in London Bank for a while and set off for China. Stranded with only $10 in his pocket in Malaya, he got a job with an international tobacco company in Penang and was later transferred to the company's offices in Shanghai. He moved around China for the next 9 years, working at Peking, Hankow, and Daren. After this, he became tuberculous and traveled to a Swiss sanitarium by way of the Trans-Siberian Railway from Vladivostok, spending some time in Russia. All this, especially his time in Russia, should have been an insuperable obstacle to any hopes he had of joining M15, and so it proved at first. Even after his recruitment, his health was not strong enough for him to continue working for the tobacco company. So early as 1936, he was back in England. Even his friends agreed that he was not particularly talented, wrote Chapman Pincher, who had described him at the time of his return to England as basically a broken man. Though surprisingly athletic, he was to retain the look of someone who had been tuberculous and became progressively so rounded shouldered that he almost looked hunched. He had no degree, his health was suspect, and his experience in China was not likely to be helpful in securing a post in England. The only work he could find was a clerk typist. However, through an army major he met, he secured an interview with M15. He was turned down and told that his experience abroad might be helpful to M16. He applied and was turned down for health reasons by that service. When he applied to M15 for the second time, later that year, nothing had changed, except the mind of M15. This time he was taken on. The Director General of M15 then was Major General Sir Vernon Kell, who happened to be a Freemason. With almost everything going against him, Hollis got in. What is even more remarkable was the rate at which he was promoted within the service. Once he had got in, this astonished his colleagues then, and he still cannot be explained by any of the M15 officers, current and retired, with whom I have had contact either directly or through intermediaries. This is one of the great mysteries of Roger Hollis. even to those because they were not involved in any particular event, because they liked the man, or not convinced that he was a spy, even though it was against the regulations for any officer to be a Freemason. And this, incidentally, must presumably indicate that membership was regarded as a threat to security. Several officers were in the Brotherhood. Among them was a man called Potter, who was in charge of the huge M15 card index, now computerized. Such a man would be good to have as a friend. But it was but was it Freemasonry that got Hollis against all odds into the service and took him, the unlikely of all of its officers, to the very top? I believe it was. The likeliest key to the mystery of Hollis in Shanghai and the time he spent there working for the British American Tobacco Company in the 1930s. The European community in Shanghai was small. The English speaking community was, of course, smaller and very tight knit. Virtually every Englishman arriving in Shanghai gravitated to the Masonic Hall at 1623rd Avenue Road. Freemasonry had flourished among the British expatriates here and at previous Masonic Hall at 30 The Bund, Shanghai, since the 1800s. In the 20s and 30s, when Hollis was in Shanghai, the tradition of Freemasonry was at its zenith. A man who was not a Mason was at a grave disadvantage in achieving whatever social or professional ambitions he had. Almost everyone I contacted who knew Hollis, included M15 officers past and present, had reacted similarly to the suggestion that the former Director General was the member of the Brotherhood, that he was just the kind of man, extremely secretive by nature, with few open friendships, with small prospect of advancement, who would join Freemasonry in order to exploit its covert advantages. Freemasonry, said the context, offered the first explanation to the Hollis mystery. His otherwise inexplicable acceptance and his phenomenal rate of promotion, this would be especially likely. I was told of Hollis' immediate predecessor as the Director General of the uh, uh, sec, Security Service, Sir Dick Goldsmith White, had been a Mason. The one notable voice of dissent was that of Sir Dick White himself, whose own formidable career contains one striking anomaly. White is the only man to ever have been the head of both M15 and M16. He moved from 5 in 1956 to take over the Secret Service from Sir John Sinbad Sinclair. Despite his impressive record and qualifications, the unprecedented transfer was viewed by many M16 as dangerous and as something which, once again breaking all the traditional rules governing the secure operation of the two services, should never have been allowed. It was White who, on his appointment as the Secret Service chief, recommended Hollis as his successor to Primary Anthony Eden. When I put it to Sir Dick at his retirement home near Ardell that Hollis' period in Shanghai made it virtually certain that he had been the member of the Brotherhood, he laughed and said, "Oh dear me, I wouldn't have thought so at all. I can't guarantee it, but it seems to me unlikely." When I asked why not, he said exactly the opposite of what others had told me, that Hollis really didn't seem the type. And when I asked him if he assumed and told me genuinely that he never had, adding that he had hoped I'd reached the right conclusion about Hollis. um, Hollis' treachery should have come to light in the late 1940s with Sir Percy Sillitoe, who was Director General of M15. As A. W. Cockerill, Sillitoe's biography points out, that practically the entire effort of the service from 1946 on until long after Sillitoe's retirement was directed at identifying and weeding out communists from positions in which they posed a threat to national security. Cockerill states that one of Sillitoe's first actions after getting settled into the job at M15 chief was to carry out a purge, for which he had something of a reputation in his former career in the police. What's up, Anna?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm reading this crazy book called The Brotherhood right now. It's the secret world of the Freemasons, and there's like a connection with
Oh, now it makes sense. Okay, I get it.
yeah. So
Thank
it's
you
like
for the context.
yeah, so it's like the KGB, M15, M16, like, and the Masons. How like a lot of these guys, and especially this director of who was both the chief director of M15 and M16. He went to China, and he was like, I guess he was over like a tobacco company or something there, but he had joined a Masonic lodge, which was kind of common. With when you stayed in Shanghai for like British guys to join the lodge, right? Because you got to think like if you're in a foreign country and you don't have a lot of people that you know of your own,
Right. You have
you
to
would
create your own
yeah. So
elite.
so this guy was basically stating that it's very unlikely that this guy would have gotten into M16 considering his background, but how did he get in? And it's because of Freemasonry, right? And
Right.
so the connection is there. It's like all these intelligence agencies have a lot of guys that were involved in masonry for one reason or another to basically ascend up a social hierarchy.
You know that that's the marketing, at least like towards the quote unquote minorities.
Yeah,
That's the marketing that the Masons adopt.
without a
That
doubt.
that essentially you will get access if you know, like, oh, you're so downtrodden, you're so oppressed, and if you want access, you know, we're leveling the playing field essentially. And then what I've experienced is they start to say things like, is this so squirrely? Because they start to equate it with prophetic dreaming, like saying like if you're meant to be a Mason, you're born a Mason, and you know, like you have these dreams, and they start to interpret your dreams. And
It's like
this is just a
ordained.
recruitment. Yeah, correct.
I knew a Mason when I was growing up. See, my grandfather was a Mason, a 32nd degree.
Oh snap!
Okay, and so he had a bunch of Masonic buddies. And when my grandfather died, these Masonic guys would come and visit my
It
grandmother.
came to the, yeah. So they have also a code that supposedly you have to care of the woman or something, like if he passes, and then when they pass, like, was there like a box or something that was supposed to be given over to some Masons and not touched by the family?
I don't know. That's a possibility, but I know
Like they come
this.
to make sure like all the ends are tied up. That's what I think.
Well, there was a case there, like my grandfather's things, and there was the ring, and then there was like a piece of paper with like a radius on it, like a circle, and then you have like the line heading
Right.
towards the middle. I don't know. There was some like weird stuff. You know what I mean? Like geometry, and I don't know what any of that meant. But there was a box like that at my
That's
grandmother's house.
crazy.
But so there was this guy Lucky, and he was about 90 years old, and he was like an admiral on like a submarine, or I don't, you know what I mean, something like that.
My
Like,
God.
okay, so this guy, I had helped him like fix his cable. Well, I needed a job at that time. I was like probably 18, 19 years old, and I needed a job. And he was like, no, no worries, I'll get you a job. And he had like a flip book full of numbers, right? So it was
Oh
like,
my God.
yeah, he had a flip book full of numbers. And in his upstairs area, he had two chests full of gold and silver coins. And
Jesus.
what he told me was like, you need to invest in gold and silver. You know what I mean? And because I guess they're expecting some market crash, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, a lot of these numbers was like the manager at Sears, or you know what I mean, like all these different people from
Right.
around my town that had some connection, business owners where he could just call a number and get you a job. But he gave me a piece of paperwork to fill out to become a Mason. And I was young, and
No
like
way.
I thought about doing it, but I got sketched out at the end, and I'm just like, no, because he told me, he's like, what we're gonna do is you fill out this paper, and then we're gonna do, kind of like a background check into you, and like, I don't know, like look into your life, kind of like secretly, I guess, you know what I mean? I don't know. I just didn't do it.
Oh my God. Yeah, that sounds pretty familiar.
Yeah.
Because it's not just that, but now that you listed out all the people that's in the network, they even ask them to look out, on you and all that. Although with technology, I wonder if that's redundant now. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't have like a major footprint then, anyways. Like I'm 19 years old. Like, what are you gonna find out? Like, I hadn't even
Right.
been
Yeah.
to jail at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, it didn't feel right.
Yeah,
And
but
so,
we all have a birth certificate and all that, and that's
yeah,
that's bet on, right? It's kind of obfuscated and bundled into like stock options and securities, but it's still bet on. I mean, even the GDP is kind of a bet on the stock of people, like the population.
this book here too. It has a chapter dedicated to Freemasonry and the police. And I've always known that police have had a big
Yeah,
fraternity.
they're from the group.
Yeah, and it's a big gang, like,
Right.
and he definitely told me, like, if you became a Mason, let's say you like didn't have enough money for your groceries and you were short in a line, and another Mason seen you, they would pay for them.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
they would have to be obligated to help you almost.
Yeah,
And you would have to do the same for others.
right. Yeah, or like, let's say you committed a crime, and
Mhm.
the judge was a Freemason, then he wouldn't convict you of said crime. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, yeah.
they have like an oath to the Brotherhood to look out for other Masons, which is pretty insane. But
Yeah. To serve and protect who, right? That's the question.
right, so if all your police departments supposedly for serve and protect, but they're all in a fraternity, then you know,
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's insidious. I think you just touched the tip of the iceberg of how insidious that network is.
without a doubt, and psycho, and we're talking about every industry and every playing field. Churches, politicians, cops, judges, um, and in like books like this, like where it's pointing out like intelligence services using it, and I know this is like looking into like Orthodox history and stuff, like they're with the Moscow Patriarchate, which was the church formed by Stalin. We talked about this before, but you couldn't get to a certain, like, you couldn't become a bishop unless you became a Mason first.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I have the documents on that actually.
Okay.
Pretty well.
Yeah, that is wild.
Are there Masons in India?
Yeah, definitely.
Sadi Guru,
I
I
don't
bet
know
you
of any, but yeah, there are.
that
CEO
Sadhguru
of
guy.
Google. Oh yeah, he is correct. See, unseen. You're quick. Yeah, he is a Freemason. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
I bet he builds a mean brick wall.
I mean, you could kind of just see it on some guys, you know, like masonry has a certain look. Like, you know, I don't know.
Can you send?
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
you? What does it look like?
Paid.
Looks like if you want to be very honest, it looks like a female to male trance.
Damn. That makes sense, you know, because the spirit
That's
behind
what
it.
they do. That's what they do, bro. And they're all secretly gay. They're sucking dick behind closed doors.
Dang, son.
Well, to be fair, probably some of them do film it for OnlyFans or some other, Israeli-based company.
What do you think? OnlyFans is like a blackmail network or something.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if I were running things and I wanted to create something like that, it'd be a good way to do it.
He about to diddy him.
Did you know that over 50% of Pornhub videos are minors?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, how would somebody find that out? Like,
Well, despite the reporting, I mean, it's like kind of like an egregious thing where it's reported or it's
I know that
obvious
they.
or it's even violent and against the will.
I know a few years ago they said that they deleted any video that wasn't age verified or something like that. So like people had to like upload their
ID.
ID or something, I guess.
So what you can do is you can upload your ID as an adult and then put up stuff of like kids and shit. So there's just, there's like ways to bypass. And then that's their moneymaker. So you think they're going to axe their moneymaker?
Well, OnlyFans is literally the most profitable business per employee, from what I've heard. So, I mean, it makes sense.
Or
I
the
think they have.
employees, their employees aren't the ones that are putting on the show.
Have you ever heard of? I mean, I could go on a long time, but and have you ever heard of Damien Eccles and?
Yeah.
I have.
You have not, or you have?
I have.
What do you think? What do you think that guy's connections are with these guys? Like, how do you think he got involved with those people?
Johnny Depp.
Well, I mean, he's in prison since he's a kid. Then suddenly, like, all these people come out of the woodwork to get him out, and you know.
I don't know. Like, is it part of their job description to do that? Like, do we really know? Because like Johnny Depp is just a high level prostitute. Like, what else is he?
Well, he's an occultist, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but do they have any free like reign? Like, I would say you and I are much freer to decide what we do with our lives than they are.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Well, maybe it's written into the contract that whoever Damien Eccles is, maybe he was pretty high up and like, oh, well, just like we were saying with the Masons, it's like, oh, if a Mason can't pay their bill, you better fucking step in, like.
That reminds me of a story somebody told recently. Interesting.
Do you care to share it?
Well, I'll tell you about it private. I mean, I don't think it's like directly related because it was about family, but it just reminds me of like the whole pay your debt kind of thing. So
Pay your debt?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Well, Pinoy, I'll just say it. Pinoy was talking about how his dad owed debt, and then he paid his dad's debt because it's the right thing to do. And Unseen thinks he's a Freemason, so that's what it was reminding me of.
Wait. Say that. Say it slower. You just rushed past it.
So Pinoid said his dad owed a debt and he paid it for his dad, even though his dad was not a nice person or something like that. So
Oh, but I mean, okay. But then, what are you saying? Like everybody that's family oriented is a Mason.
well, no, Unseen thinks he is a Mason. That's why I was.
Think
No,
Pinoid is a Mason.
he's the one who admitted it, dude. Like,
Pinoid is a Mason. No, if he's admitted it, then what?
I didn't hear him admit it open. I mean, he said things that definitely sound like a Mason, but I don't know if he admitted it. I didn't hear him admit it, but
Well, he is all for. I heard him fawning over like all the people that control the community or whatever, like that.
I mean, I'll put it this way: since I've been on the internet, I've met far more Masons than I ever thought possible because I've never met one in person. I met a guy who was supposedly in the Knights of Malta, but he was like 80 years old or something. So maybe that's
A
where
lot
it's
of them are older too. I mean, it's insane. There's so many Masons you wouldn't even suspect. But if you know, essentially.
Well, I shouldn't say.
They're
Well,
everywhere.
yeah. Yeah. I don't. I'm pretty sure I haven't like talked to one in person that I know of. I mean, but it is very interesting. I think it's like I don't. I mean, to me, it's just funny when you see all these like little short, metrosexual Filipino guys walking around with their Freemason stuff. I think that's really funny.
But all of the Freemasons are like that. I haven't seen a masculine one to date. That's like part of the credo or some shit.
well, who was it? Was it Manly P. Hall that was supposedly hermaphrodite or something?
But they all claim, and even Da Vinci, the Mona Lisa is him in his true form and shit.
Well, that's what they say about Lady Liberty. Transpocalypse.
Yeah,
It's really funny. Like
that's pretty
it sounds
apparent.
so schizo when you talk about that stuff, but
Yeah, but what's more schizophrenic is like if you're actual male or female and you're confounded from a young age through sexuality with all that's what's insidious about it, not pointing out what's being done.
well, let me ask Unseen this. What do you think about the whole like Catholic child abuse stuff? Like, do you think that that's actually like some sort of like occult mystery stuff going on? Because I mean, I know that's conspiratorial,
I
but
don't know. I mean, Crowley seemed to be a proponent of something like that, right? And then you got the whole M15, M16 connection that I just brought up. And as you know, they infiltrate hierarchies.
They recruit children, don't they?
Uh,
Children into gangs.
supposedly, right? You got those pictures of like Masons marrying boys or something at the lodge. So I don't know. I think it's probably that, and if
But every
this is my
gang
theory.
activity, and I'm just talking about the third world because it's much more visible. They use kids. They use
well,
children to.
you want to know a really weird clip I saw that should really be seen more is Milo Yiannopoulos on uh, Joe Rogan, and they're joking about the Bryan Singer, the guy who created X-Men movies and stuff, about how he was preyed on by 15-year-old boys or whatever. Like that's a really weird
Oh
conversation
my
because they were basically
god!
admitting openly like it's open, not really secret thing.
This is what I really think is that in the case of the Roman Catholic Church, what happened was this guy Hildebrand got in control, right? And he was a heretic. That's why they separated from the Orthodox Church. Well, at this point, now that a heretic has ascended this hierarchy, And the faithful at that time weren't necessarily aware of it. They still had, genuine Christian beliefs, and a lot of Catholics don't necessarily know what's going on, And I think God would probably be more merciful to those people, but still they're participating, and they should look, kind of like. But anyways, what I think is happening is
And
that
not
the
to
masonry is infiltrating.
humility with ignorance, or like, I mean, I see this so often. Like people just like, oh, humble, I'll be humble, but in fact, they're kind of suppressing that inner voice that's saying something's not right.
Yeah, it's a false piety thing. But what I think is the case is you have these Masons that ascend these hierarchies that are supposedly Christian, like in case of the Roman Catholic Church, and these are some satanic people, and they hate Christ so much that they want to do things that are so subversive to blacken the image of Christianity, right? So it's like in the name of the Roman Catholic Church, but these people are really like demonic Freemasons, that
You're
have
right.
ascended those
You're right.
hierarchies,
Because nobody can quote Bible like the Freemasons.
right? And this is what a recent Freemason came out and said that a priest told him that he should join the Masons because Christ himself did his miracles through, essentially black magic, like mystery school
Through
teachings,
the mystery school.
right? Like
They even say
a
it's actually
Mithras.
through sex magic that
Yeah,
Christ did the miracle.
yeah. So they
That he had sex
justify
with
these
Mary
things.
Magdalene, and that's how he like got resurrected or something. Like he charged up his energy body, and they used some Egyptian word for it, ka. And then that's like, so that's why he didn't die on the cross. I mean, what?
Yeah, that's a number of different heresies there. That's like, Docetism. Docetism states that he was a phantasmal body, that he didn't really die. Um, Simon Magus, like, sort of had another similar belief to that, but he put himself as Christ in his own little cult, and mixed it with like mystery school teachings. Then you have like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, so they say like Christ was just a practitioner of Egyptian
The
magic,
rights of that,
and he
yeah.
these types of things.
But
So,
also Zoroastrianism, and it's always a baseless argument. It's like fluff that sounds kind of cool, but
very
there's
new
nothing
agey,
behind it,
and
right?
what's weird about all that is that if you can convince a person like, okay, Christ himself did these things, so you should do them, and
Being
you
in
go
a
back to.
priest position, imagine that.
Yeah. And, like you go back to Pope Innocent III, he had, these manuscripts by Kabbalists. And these Kabbalists basically were saying that, these are the secret teachings of Christ. And Pope Innocent III bought into this. And the upper echelon of those hierarchies, and he's also control of the Knights Templar. And the Templars have very similar rituals, to the church in some sense, but they subvert them in some way, right? And they mix them in with mystery school teachings, and
Right, which usually is like sex with children, or sex without consent. That's what I noticed. That's subversion.
yeah, I mean, everybody's kind of seen these Masonic videos of like having like a witch stripping in front of old men or something. There's some weird stuff going on.
Right, right.
And I think the thought behind it is, if you can get all these people kind of complicit into like, so you're all blackmailed, you're all in on it. So if one exposes it, then you expose everybody, and everybody, you
Right.
know what I mean? That's the mentality, and they want to
The
get the
network
person.
is so vast that exposure wouldn't matter because it's so vast that you know, if one domino falls, it's not going to affect,
Have you ever seen that
or it can
video?
just be made a scapegoat. Somebody can be made a scapegoat, like a Diddy or whatever, you know. And
Right, right. Have you ever seen that video of those politicians? I think they're Republicans, and it's like the news is visiting them, and they're living like frat boys in like an apartment in Washington D.C. Like they've never grown up really. Like they live like frat boys.
I have not seen that.
Yeah, well, that's a fact. Like they actually do that, and because these politicians are known to be involved with like sex rings and all this stuff, like the Franklin cover up and all that, whatever. But what I understand about it is like people don't make this connection, but it's absolutely true. At colleges, what do you have? Fraternities. What is Freemasonry? It's a fraternity, So
Well,
they give it.
sorry to
Huh?
interrupt you, but like I was looking up. I was looking up someone earlier. I think it was Crichton who wrote Jurassic Park, and he was a part of Phi Beta Kappa.
Andromeda Strain. He wrote
What?
Andromeda Strain, Jurassic Park, and The Lost World.
Right. And what do you think about what he was up to?
So the Andromeda Strain is actually way more interesting because, well, Jurassic Park in and of itself, the book, I don't know if you've read the book, it's not like the
I
movie.
read it. I read it a long time ago.
So it's based on biotech. Like it's based on advances in biotech. And the whole thing wasn't dinosaurs. It was like genetic experimentation and the application of it. Like, so yeah, dinosaurs is like one of the like things, but they were cloning stuff. They were, that was the point of it, is
Right.
humans playing God. And then the Andromeda Strain was an event that supposedly actually happened where they released a virus into a town and everybody died. Like they just dropped dead. They released some kind of pestilence. I don't know what it was. And
Some
they had
bioweapon.
to like rush to cover it up, like contain, and then like blow up the facility or something like that.
Well, that's what a lot of the zombie and
Very,
Resident Evil and a lot of that's
very
about.
order out of chaos style.
Well, that's why I wanted to cover Jurassic Park, because I found like they're basically doing some sort of mythology with the way they framed it. So it's like mythology mixed with like philosophy mixed with science fiction and stuff like that. So like that's why I was going to cover it, because it's like the way they shot the film is obviously like a weird like metaphor about Gnostic theology or something like that. I mean, that's what Spielberg seemed to.
Chaos theory, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And there's another aspect is, I don't know, in the book, but in the movie, I guess she's equally annoying, but in the book, she's even more annoying. The girl child in the film, and like the children in the book, like the descriptions of like torture, it's almost like a prawn for like torture. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like you get to see these people being hunted down, and that's some kind of pleasure.
Yeah, I remember reading it and being like, "There's a lot more going on." I don't want to reread it, but I do want to look up some notes on the book before I do that. But yeah, I'll be right back, guys. Continue. But well, what I was going to say about Crichton is he was a part of Phi Beta Kappa, because I was trying to look up his life, and he's they're all like Scottish Presbyterian, whatever, and long story short, he's connected to a lot of weird people, through his Hollywood connections and stuff. But I mean, if you just look up like James Cameron, Spielberg, I mean, those are obvious ones. But I know a lot of other weird connections about, like, actually, like, most of it's honestly speculation, but like, I definitely highly speculate that a lot of these people are tied back to like, Charles Manson related shit, pretty much. Like that's why, like
Cold Freemasonic Scottish Rite. Yeah, I think you're on the mind.
yeah, because like it's kind of like out in the open if you know what you're looking at, but like if you look at what James Cameron's wife has produced, like the shows she's produced, and like the main actors in some of the shows, and
What about
like
Zero Dark 30? You seen that shit?
I did see it a little bit. I mean, obviously, I don't really believe the story, but I'm sure that it was all full of. That's the one about Bin Laden, right? Is that the one about Bin Laden, or or is that the one about the other thing?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. They go into Pakistan, right? And Bin Laden was supposed to be in Pakistan. Yeah, that's the one about catching Bin Laden.
Yeah, I don't think I
And it
saw that
was a
movie.
strong female lead or whatever. But that female, oh my God, it's like the least female looking female I ever seen.
Yeah, there's definitely like some sort of like if you look into who's producing those kind of movies and stuff, like I think it's very related to the stuff that Charles Manson was talking about personally, like like and the stuff about what do you call it? The Beatles and all that shit. I mean, Scientology, Tom Cruise, I've already covered some of his stuff. I mean, the more you look at it, it's like it seems like, oh, it's all this different stuff, but it's basically like all one thing, but they just have different like even like Limp Bizkit. Like I listened to Limp Bizkit as a kid and I was like, oh, this music's kind of weird and whatever. But like the more I've looked into like what they do and stuff, it's like it's very Freemasonic, like people think, oh, it's just corny rap metal rock or something. It's like, no, it's actually not. I'm pretty
Not
sure that
really. Not really. It sounds like somebody being tortured.
yep, it's very deep. And same thing with Eminem. Like Eminem's very all that stuff that we all grew up with in America. It's like it's very well connected
I
stuff.
was
I
an
mean, people just
Eminem fan too.
huh?
I was an Eminem fan too growing up. And I
Oh
listened to Limp Bizkit as well.
yeah. Well, even Blink 182. People think like Blink 182. Oh, it's just a pop punk band. Very demonic. Very 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 demonic band. Like super demonic.
The
Like I think
name
Blink.
itself, right?
Well, I don't know about that, probably, but definitely I could tell you Blink 182 is like probably one of the most satanic modern rock bands, which people think, what? I mean, no, but like it is just, I mean, I'll probably do a whole show on it because like if I barely scratch the surface, I could pull up like a bunch of stuff about them because it's really it's actually extremely obvious if you look at their material, but yeah, it's really bad, like very very bad stuff that they were involved in, I'm pretty sure.
No, it's art.
Well, but again, their songs are supposed to be like, oh, this is about like teenagers and falling in love and all, but I don't think it was at all, personally. It's like it was a cover. Yeah.
Bro, but I mean, like the whole ambiance of like bands like that, they wouldn't play. Okay, they would play like big concerts, but
Oh,
when
they
they came
did, yes.
into town, they played in these like seedy little pub type venues that it's so dark you can't see shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I went to one of their shows when they got really famous when I was like uh 14 or 15, I think, 16 maybe. And it was at a big venue, but um I would just say that I got a bad vibe, but this is like before I really realized what was going on with them, but I kind of like I knew something was up with them because I bought their live album, and if you ever listen to the live album, the music itself is really well done, but the in between every song they were doing like stand-up comedy skit stuff, and I mean it's
That
really really
is
bad
so
shit.
common. That is so
Yeah.
common. Like that happens in like other language bands too, and it's like very bad comedy. Like you want to skip it.
Well, it was very overtly sexual. That's like it was very like gay, homosexual, like Satan wants to fuck you in the butt kind of stuff. Like, yeah, it was really, really bad. Like, I actually want to play it sometime just so people know that I'm not lying about it. Like, it's really bad. Yeah. And actually, that's one thing that pissed me off about one of my other favorite bands. They always do that kind of stuff too. And like, and I used to think, oh, this is just like bro humor, because like growing up, a lot of people took that humor on, and I never like I did it. I would say that like
But it was always uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, like I would do it, but I would do it. I would let everybody else do it, and then I would make it so fucking bad that everybody else stopped doing it. Does that make sense? Like I would cut it out. You know what I mean? Like I would make people stop what they were doing. You know, because I would like make it so obvious how gay it was what they were doing. You know, and so I mean, I definitely had a reputation for stopping that kind of shit because. But I wouldn't do it by like being like you guys are being gay or something. I would do it by like outdoing everybody else, like, and just show like how demented they were really being. Like it was really like, yeah, that's one of the reasons I didn't go into music and stuff, because of being around a lot of musicians. They were you know what I mean? It just, I don't know what it was. It's like the spirit of it or something, like, you know, just really a lot of like my best friends who were into music that I wanted to start bands with, almost, I would say most of them are dead already. You know what I mean? So this kind of gives you an idea, like, you know, I think there's something that it does to you, you know, for sure. Is Unseen asleep or something?
No, man, I'm sorry.
Oh.
It was like whatever.
Did you ever listen to that? You ever listen to that Blink-182?
No, man. No.
But I have heard REM. Y'all know that band?
Yeah,
Oh
I know
yeah,
that.
REM was very close to Kurt Cobain before he died too, by the way. So
Yeah.
And they always play in these seedy venues that I don't know what is up with like concert
I'll be right back.
venues like that, and it just makes me want to throw up. And I think I went to one concert when I was quite young, like 18 or something,
My
and
first
like
concert.
Nero.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Well, like Nero was saying, I just didn't. I was like, well, this is what it's all about. Like, because I felt like I was so sheltered. I had never been, to any of the cool, like, I didn't even know much American music. And anyway, so I was like, this is it. Like, this is so underwhelming. And it makes me want to throw up because of all the cigarette smoke and just like urine smell, beer smell. It just, and you can hardly see anything, and they don't sing well in person. So yeah, anyway, it's just disappointing.
Right. My first concert was a Slayer, so that was interesting. And
Oh no, God.
and some guy like like they do like a circle pit, right? And there was like this skinhead. Yeah. But like
Oh God.
everybody gets in a circle, and then like there's these people that kind of like run from one side of the circle to another. And this skinhead guy like ran and just like jumped into me as hard as he possibly could, and it like knocked the wind out of me. But I like knocked myself into like this guy that was like 6'5". He was huge.
Oh my God.
And like he looked at me real pissed off, and I was like, it wasn't me, man. And like he like pushed me to the side and just knocked this skinhead dude clean out. Like the hardest punch I've ever seen. And the dude's like hits concrete, you know what I mean? Like head just like boom. It's the middle of a Slayer concert, and then this guy just like this tall ass dude just like slips into the crowd like nothing happened. It was unbelievable.
See, like, what is so fun about that? You know what I mean? Like that seems like they're doing that in order to like provoke a stampede and some deaths. That's what I think.
that kid could have definitely died. Like his head hit the concrete, and then they just like the bouncers go and like dragged him by his feet out. You know, it was pretty wild. Um, my friend stayed near the speaker the whole time, and like his ears were hurt for days. You know, it was like really
So
loud and
what are
crazy
we
music.
doing? Oh, we willingly subject ourselves to this torture and call it fun. Like,
Yeah,
damn, like what level of brainwash, damn.
and Slayer's like extremely satanic. Like all the songs are
Extreme,
like,
yeah. Yes,
yeah, like raining
yes.
blood and all this stuff.
And
But
the album cover itself, I think there was one like of a demon birth coming from a human woman.
well, one thing about it is I will give like at least it credit to the extent like at least they're open with it. Like yeah, like this is
Mhm.
what it is. It's kind of a little bit better, I would say, than like
Yeah, but you can't call it what it is because it's like essentially we're all atheists, right? So it's
right,
equivalent to anything, any
uh,
religion.
well, but then you go like to mainstream music where it presents itself as just like, oh, it's nothing, but there's like all this like these symbols and like hidden Masonic, Illuminati stuff within all these videos, and that's going back a long time. Like you look
Right,
at
right.
80s videos, like it's all in there
Why
too.
you look at the first movies that were made, even the silent films, is
Yeah,
there.
very strange. I don't know.
There was an old film called Metropolis. I don't know if you've seen. I think it's a
I've
German
seen it.
film.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. That's like Antichrist. Very like
it's very Nietzschean, right?
yeah. Well, the Superman. That's basically what the chick is. Beyonce's actually done a concert as the Metropolis person. Like uh, she's supposed to.
Doesn't
It's like
surprise
supposed to
me.
be the Whore of Babylon, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Beyonce.
Well, yeah, she's done it, but I'm saying in the movie itself, the robot's
Oh,
supposed to
correct.
represent the Whore of
Yes,
Babylon.
yes, yes, yes.
Because there's that scene where all the men are kind of going crazy and losing it, like as she's
Mhm.
dancing or what.
Right. But it's her. But the real, like, I always thought the real whore was the city, like the metropolis.
Yeah, that's true. Moloch, um,
Mhm.
where they're like it's
And then
feeding on
Beyonce is
people.
definitely a man. Definitely, it's definitely a male to female
There's a poem by Allen
trans.
Ginsberg where he talks about Moloch, 1,000 eyes, or something. He's talking about the city of New York, and I don't know that he inspired a lot of early kind of rock and roll, like Dylan and the Beatles and those type of people, like the Process Church kind of thing. But he was a weirdo. It turns out, like I guess he's known for his poetry, but he was into like a group I don't even want to talk about. Super weird.
Who is that you're saying? Who are
Allen
you referring
Ginsberg. Allen Ginsberg.
to? I see.
He
He was
wrote
a
Hal.
Jew poet.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. He was.
What was he related to that Ralph? What's her name? Ralph later Gator Ginsburg's. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I
Bader
don't think
Ginsburg.
so. I don't think I know who you're talking about though. I don't think he was related to her.
hey, I want to read this from Jurassic Park. May I?
Yeah.
I have the
Absolutely,
PDF.
absolutely.
Okay, so the acknowledgement. I'm just reading the acknowledgement. Michael Crichton, however you say his name, born 1942, died 2008, published 1990. Right, and acknowledgements. I don't know who that is, but for A/A-M and T, I guess he couldn't write their names out. Reptiles are abhorrent because of their cold body, pale color, cartilaginous skeleton, filthy skin, fierce aspect, calculating eye, offensive smell, harsh voice, squalid habitation, and terrible venom. Wherefore their creator has not exerted his powers to make many of them. To make many of them, yeah. And that is by Carolus Linnaeus, 1798. That's a quote. Linnaeus was the father of taxonomy, right? He created the genus, species, that classification. Yeah, Swedish botanist, physician, zoologist who formalized binomial nomenclature, the modern system of naming organisms. He's known as the father of modern taxonomy. So binomial nomenclature means you put the species first, then the genus. Or I'm sorry, you put the genus first and then the species. So Homo sapien, Homo would be the genus and sapien is the species. And the genus is the larger family, right, of which the species belong to. And then then genuses are then part of a family, and then that's it goes up and so on. But I'm pretty sure y'all know all that.
Yeah, it's wild.
And then there is, I don't know who, Erwin Chargaff. I wonder who that is. There's another quote here. And what was described of reptiles really stood out to me, like the and that he chose that as the first line. So Erwin Chargaff, American biochemist, 1905 to 2002, was an Austro-Hungarian-born American biochemist, writer, and professor of biochemistry at Columbia University School, a Bukovinian Jew who emigrated to the United States during the Nazi regime. He penned a well-reviewed autobiography, Heraclitean Fire, Sketches from a Life Before Nature. What? Through careful experimentation, Chargaff discovered two rules called Chargaff's rules, which helped lead to the discovery of the double helix structure of DNA. I see. That's it. And he says, you cannot recall a new form of life. You cannot recall a new form of life. What does that mean? You cannot recall. What does that mean?
Meaning,
I don't feel intelligent.
I guess meaning like you can't recall it if it's new, meaning like you're making something new. So,
Oh, I see.
but what exactly, why they would say that, I don't know. But
you can stop splitting the atom. You can stop visiting the moon. You can stop using aerosols. You may even decide not to kill a population by using a few bombs. But you cannot recall a new form of life. Yeah, that's the whole quote.
that seems like very esoteric sounding.
Yeah, because all the premises before that are false. Yeah, what you said makes sense. Thanks for explaining that. So those are the two quotes he starts with. And then boom, introduction, the InGen incident. The late 20th century has witnessed a scientific gold rush of astonishing proportions. The headlong and furious haste to commercialize genetic engineering. This enterprise has proceeded so rapidly with so little outside commentary that its dimensions and implications are hardly understood at all. Biotechnology promises the greatest revolution in human history. By the end of this decade, it would have outdistanced atomic power and computers in its efficiency, in its effect on our everyday lives. In the words of one observer, biotechnology is going to transform every aspect of human life, our medical care, our food, our health, our entertainment, our very bodies. Nothing will ever be the same again. It's literally going to change the face of the planet. But the biotechnology, this is written in 1990, and just a reminder. But the biotechnology revolution differs in three important respects from past scientific transformations. First, it is broad-based. America entered the atomic age through the work of a single research institution at Los Alamos. It entered the computer age through the efforts of about a dozen companies, but biotechnology research is now carried out in more than 2,000 laboratories in America alone. 500 corporations spend $5 billion a year on this technology. Second, much of the research is thoughtless or frivolous. Efforts to engineer paler trout for better visibility in the stream, square trees for easier lumbering, and injectable scent cells so you always smell of your favorite perfume may seem like a joke, but they are not. Indeed, the fact that biotechnology can be applied to the industries traditionally subject to the vagaries of fashion, such as cosmetics and leisure activities, heightens concern about the whimsical use of this new technology. Third, the work is uncontrolled. No one supervises it. No federal laws regulate it. There is no coherent government policy in America or anywhere else in the world. And because the products of biotechnology range from drugs to farm crops to artificial snow, oh my God, 1990, guys, artificial snow. An intelligent policy is difficult. But most disturbing is the fact that no watchdogs are found among the scientists themselves. It is remarkable that nearly every scientist in genetic research is also engaged in the commerce of biotechnology. There are no detached observers. Everybody has a stake. The commercialization of molecular biology is the most stunning ethical event in the history of science, and it has happened at an astonishing speed. For 400 years since Galileo, science has always proceeded as a free and open inquiry into the workings of nature. Yeah, right. Scientists have always ignored national boundaries, holding themselves above the transitory concerns of politics and even wars. Scientists have always rebelled against secrecy in research. Yeah, right. And and have even frowned on. It's like, who is the scientists or saints or what?
Yeah, he's definitely like wishing something there.
Yeah. Scientists have always rebelled against secrecy in research and have even frowned on the idea of patenting their discoveries, seeing themselves as working to the benefit of all humankind.
Homie, Dr. K is losing it right now. He's turning over in his grave.
For many generations, the discoveries of scientists did indeed have a peculiar, selfless quality. When in 1953, two young researchers in England, James Watson and Francis Crick, deciphered the structure of DNA, their work was hailed as a triumph of the human spirit, of the centuries-old quest to understand the universe in a scientific way. It was confidently expected that their discovery would be selflessly extended to the greater benefit of mankind. Yet that did not happen. 30 years later, nearly all of Watson and Crick's scientific colleagues were engaged in another sort of enterprise entirely. Research in molecular genetics had become a vast multi-billion-dollar commercial undertaking, and its origins can be traced not to 1953, but to April 1976. That was the date of a now famous meeting in which Robert Swanson, a venture capitalist, approached Herbert Boyer, a biochemist at the University of California. The two men agreed to found a commercial company to exploit Boyer's gene splicing techniques. Their new company, GenNTech, quickly became the largest and most successful of the genetics engineering startups. Suddenly, it seemed as if everyone wanted to become rich. New companies were announced almost weekly, and scientists flocked to exploit genetic research. By 1986, at least 362 scientists, including 64 in the National Academy, sat on the advisory boards of biotech firms. The number of those who held equity positions or consultancies was several times greater. It is necessary to emphasize how significant this shift in attitude actually was. In the past, pure scientists took a snobbish view of business. They saw the pursuit of money as intellectually uninteresting, suited only to shopkeepers, and to do research for industry, even at the prestigious Bell or IBM labs, was only for those who couldn't get a university appointment. Thus, the attitude of pure scientists was fundamentally critical towards the work of applied scientists and to the industry in general. Their long-standing antagonism kept university scientists free of contaminating industry ties, and whenever debate arose about technological matters, disinterested scientists were available to discuss the issues at the highest levels. But that is no longer true. There are very few molecular biologists and very few research institutions without commercial affiliations. The old days are gone. Genetic research continues at a more furious pace than ever, but it is done in secret and in haste for profit. In this commercial climate, it is probably inevitable that a company as ambitious as International Genetic Technologies Incorporated of Palo Alto would arise. It is equally unsurprising that the genetic crisis it created should go unreported. After all, InGen's research was conducted in secret. The actual incident occurred in the most remote region of Central America, and fewer than 20 people were there to witness it. Of those, only a handful survived. Even at the end, when the International Genetic Technologies filed for Chapter 11 protection in the United States Bankruptcy Court in San Francisco on October 5th, 1989, the proceedings drew little press attention. It appeared so ordinary. InGen was the third small American bioengineering company to fail that year and the seventh since 1986. Few court documents were made public. Excuse me. Since the creditors were Japanese investment consortia such as Hamaguri and Densaka, companies which traditionally shunned publicity. To avoid unnecessary disclosure, Daniel Ross of Cowan, Swain and Ross, counsel for InGen, also represented the Japanese investors, and the rather unusual petition of the vice consul of Costa Rica was heard behind closed doors. Thus, it was not surprising that within a month, the problems of InGen were quietly and amicably settled. Parties to that settlement, including a distinguished scientific board of advisors, signed a non-disclosure agreement, and none will speak about what happened. But many of the principal figures of the InGen incident are not those signatories and were willing to discuss the remarkable events leading up to those final 2 days in August 1989 on a remote island off the west coast of Costa Rica. So I guess that then the entire book is like speculation about what could have happened at InGen, Costa Rica, right? So this is so far has been nonfiction.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if they did something like that. I think that's what Resident Evil was actually about too, honestly. Like, if I don't know if you ever looked into Resident Evil, but I think it's kind
I
of
watched almost all of the films,
yeah. But
I haven't read the books.
well, it's video games too, and but yeah, I think it's all basically like the movies are more occult than the games, but it's definitely related, I think, to that kind of stuff. To like this, what we're talking about, I think. But yeah, I mean that's.
Okay, but that's
I mean,
all left out of the movie, right? I mean, this is what the basis for the book, and I think the book was a flop. Even it didn't sell that many copies.
well, he wanted to. Well, he wrote the book. He wanted to actually. He actually wrote it as a screenplay and a book at the same time. So it was kind of intentional. He actually always intended it to be a movie.
Yeah, but Spielberg, he doesn't mention any InGen incident or cover up or biotech race or anything like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, but it's if you watch, that's why I want to cover the movie because he turned it into like a weird kabbalistic thing, in my opinion. So. Yeah, he basically put the Kabbalah into the story, so and some other things too, I'm sure, but I think the movie's actually Kabbalistic or Gnostic or something, you know.
Yeah, but so is the book because I mean, how many logical fallacies were there in that one introduction?
I wonder if Spielberg's a Mason.
Definitely, with a name like Berg. If he's not a Mason, he's higher up.
Spurgeberg. All right, let's see.
What did you think about that, Unseen?
Yeah, it's people trying to play God and then acting like they're not doing it. You know, it's idealistic, really. All that stuff always is, though. You know, the idea of progress and we're gonna make this utopia. It's the same recurring theme. That's what I keep seeing. It keeps popping up everywhere. You know.
Well, what's funny
But
is
what
like
about
actually,
this? What is this like? Comparing scientists to saints, and just in
well,
recent years.
I was a biochem major. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to actually go study this kind of stuff, to be honest with you. So, but I wanted to do it from a different angle. But like he was just saying, like there's no outside observers. Like and so the history of Crichton is he wanted to be a writer, and then he submitted an Orwell paper as his own, and it got a B minus. And then he's like, well, if Orwell gets a B minus, then I have no chance of being a writer, so I'll go study like biochemistry or something.
Have you seen that Netflix documentary called Wormwood?
No.
No.
Okay, so it's about this guy who I guess he found out a secret that the government was doing. He was a biochemist, right? But he found out that they were going to use some of his weapons for biological warfare or something, and they gave the guy acid, and he ends up like having losing his mind, right? Well, they didn't complete the job, but anyways, they give it to him again, I think, and then hit him in the back of the head and threw him off of a building. And they basically, the whole
What
documentary is about
after he finished the work?
after he finished the work.
Oh.
Yeah, and they like lied to his family for like I don't know, like 40, 50 years or something. Like the whole Netflix documentary is insane, actually. But it kind of brings out like it exposes kind of the war on drugs, and then also the CIA being involved with LSD. They try to make it just an LSD thing, but it really wasn't an LSD thing. It was about biological warfare.
Okay, ultra and bio warfare.
Yeah, absolutely. But the big thing was the bio warfare. That's what they were trying to cover up and make it just about
They
LSD.
tortured him to create it, right? According to what you're saying.
What happened is I think the CIA director had put LSD in like the punch or something, or like in his drink, and like he lost his mind. You know what I'm saying? Like he freaked out.
Oh my god.
And like his wife noticed like he was acting strange or something, and then I think they were trying to do it to maybe like brainwash him to shut his mouth or something, or like it was a warning, and then they ended up killing him. And the way he died, it's like depicted in a CIA handbook, the exact death that happened to him, like hit them in the head with a blunt object and throw them off of a building.
Oh, so that's a unique.
Yeah, and okay, so the title Wormwood is like talking about like a certain amount of water.
That herb will drive you slowly insane. Like if you take excess of wormwood. So if it is the herb like wormwood, you can use it to treat parasites in small quantities.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take it in a large quantity, it slowly drives you insane.
Oh, that's crazy. Because I thought maybe that's what the reference is, but another reference for wormwood is in the Bible it talks about a star that hits and like 1/3 of the water becomes polluted, right? So there's like a biochemical kind
Oh,
of connection there. And Chernobyl, like a
nuclear.
nuclear plant that kind of erupted or whatever happened, and all that stuff went out. But Chernobyl is a I think it translates to wormwood.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
That's insane. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a book on the apocalypse that I started reading. I'm going to finish it, where Archbishop of Verki actually makes that connection that wormwood and Chernobyl is the same word, and he thinks it's like a precursor to like an end time sign in some sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I don't know exactly what went down because there's a lot of questions about the existence of nuclear power in the first place. Because it's splitting, like the more you like you really get into this stuff with a logical mind, it starts to fall apart, like the splitting of the atom and all this. It doesn't really have much weight.
Well,
But that's my humble opinion.
you know how
But
like they have the
certainly they
hydrogen
can
collider.
pollute and blame it on something else.
Yeah, you know how they have the hydrogen collider at and
Yeah,
what
and
is it?
certain.
Yeah, CERN, right? And that's like in Geneva or Switzerland. I don't know,
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um, Supposedly this science. Everybody's. Have you seen the video where they've got like all the satanic symbols and all this during like one of their shows or something they put on?
No, but I saw a video that they had like a statue of Shiva
Yeah,
and they were
yeah,
doing like some circumambulation around it wearing black hoods.
yeah. But there's something else. Like there's a video of them like performing some performance, right?
Oh,
And it's like a nature performance, but they have like goat horns on, and there's like an acid trip type video going on. But what's interesting is one of these scientists, I guess he was looking into something there, and he was basically like he's seen demonic faces, like whatever they were doing, like he could see demonic faces within like
their
I don't
experiment?
yeah, right, like it was
Oh,
opening. And I'm pretty sure that what's the guy that like has to talk with the machine, you know what I mean? um, the real smart guy or whatever that's like a paraplegic, but he talks to the machine. That guy.
Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, Hawking's right. He said that he didn't believe in God, but he thought that CERN was going to open up a doorway to hell.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. I kind of went off topic
So
there,
what
but
does that say? Huh? I don't believe in God, but I believe in hell.
well, yeah, isn't that something?
I want to read a little more from this, if you indulge me, but this is now getting into the fictitious part. I guess the scene one.
Let's get it.
All right. Prologue. The bite of the raptor. The tropical rain fell in drenching sheets, hammering the corrugated roof of the clinic building, roaring down the metal gutters, splashing on the ground in a torrent. Roberta Carter sighed and stared out the window. From the clinic, she could hardly see the beach or the ocean beyond, cloaked in a low fog. This wasn't what she expected when she had come to the fishing village of Bahia Anasco on the west coast of Costa Rica to spend 2 months as a visiting physician. Bobby Carter had expected sun and relaxation after 2 grueling years of residency in the emergency medicine at Michael Reese in Chicago. She had been in Bahia Anasco for 3 weeks, and it had rained every day. Everything else was fine. She liked the isolation of Bahia Anasco and the friendliness of its people. Costa Rica had one of the 20 best medical systems in the world, and even in this remote coastal village, the clinic was well maintained and amply supplied. Her paramedic, Manuel Aragon, was intelligent and well trained. Bobby was able to practice a level of medicine equal to what she had practiced in Chicago. I highly doubt this is like real. A real possibility in 1990. But the rain, the constant, unending rain. Across the examining room, Manuel cocked his head. Listen, he said. Believe me, I hear it, Bobby says. No, listen. And then she caught it. Another sound blended with the rain, a deeper rumble that built and emerged until it was clear, like the rhythmic thumping of a helicopter. She thought, they can't be flying in weather like this. But the sound built steady, and then the helicopter burst low through the ocean fog and roared overhead, circled and came back. She saw the helicopter swing back over the water near the fishing boats and then ease sideways to the rickety wooden dock and back toward the beach. It was looking for a place to land. It was a big-bellied Sikorsky with a blue stripe on the side with the words InGen Construction. That was the name of the construction company building a new resort on one of the offshore islands. The resort was said to be spectacular and very complicated. Many of the local people employed in the construction, which had been going on for more than 2 years. Bobby could imagine it, one of those huge American resorts with swimming pools and tennis courts where the guests could play and drink their daiquiris without having any contact with the real life of the country. Bobby wondered what was so urgent on this island that the helicopter would fly in this weather. Through the windshield, she saw the pilot exhale in relief as the helicopter settled onto the wet sand of the beach. Uniformed men jumped out and flung open the big side door. She heard frantic shouts in Spanish, and Manuel nudged her. They were calling for a doctor. 2 black crewmen carried a limp body towards her while a white man barked orders. The white man had a yellow slicker. Red hair appeared around the edges of his Mets baseball cap. Is there a doctor here? He called to her as she ran up. I'm Dr. Carter, she said. The rain fell in heavy drops, pounding her head and her shoulders. The red-haired man frowned at her. She was wearing cut-off jeans and a tank top. She had a stethoscope over her shoulder, the bell already rusted from the salty air. Ed Regis, we got a very sick man here, doctor. Then you better take him to San Jose, she said. San Jose was the capital just 20 minutes away by air. We would, but we can't get over the mountains in this weather. You have to treat him here. Bobby trotted alongside the injured man as they carried him to the clinic. He was a child, he was a kid, no older than 18. Lifting away the blood-soaked shirt, she saw a big slashing rip across his shoulder and another one on the leg. What happened to him? Construction accident, Ed shouted. He fell. One of the backhoes ran over him. The kid was pale, shivering, unconscious. Manuel stood by the bright green door of the clinic, waving his arm. The man brought the body through and set it on the table in the center of the room. Manuel started an intravenous line, and Bobby swung the light over the kid and bent to examine the wounds. Immediately, she could see that it did not look good. The kid would almost certainly die. A big tearing laceration ran from his shoulder. Oh, shit. Sorry. I dropped my laptop. The kid was, oh, no. A big tearing laceration ran down from his shoulder to his torso. At the edge of the wound, the flesh was shredded. At the center, the shoulder was dislocated, pale bones exposed. A second slash cut through the heavy muscles of the thigh, deep enough to reveal the pulse of the femoral artery below. Her first impression was that his leg had been ripped open. Tell me again about this injury, she said. I didn't see it, Ed said. They say the backhoe dragged him. Because it almost looks as if he was mauled, Bobby Carter said, probing the wound. Like most emergency room physicians, she could remember in detail patients she had seen even years before. She had seen 2 maulings. One 2-year-old child who had been attacked by a Rottweiler dog. The other was a drunken circus attendant who had an encounter with a Bengal tiger. Both injuries were similar. There was a characteristic look to an animal attack. Mauled, Ed said. No, it was a backhoe, believe me. Ed licked his lips as he spoke. He was edgy, acting as if he had done something wrong. Bobby wondered why. If they were using inexperienced local workmen on the resort construction, they must have accidents all the time. Manuel said, Do you want lavage? Yes, she said, after you block him. She bent lower, probed the wound with her fingertips. If an earth mover had rolled him over, dirt would be forced deep into the wound. But there wasn't any dirt, just a slippery, slimy foam. And the wound had a strange odor, a kind of rotten stench, a smell of death and decay. She had never smelled anything like it before. How long ago did this happen? An hour? Again, she noticed how tense Ed Regis was. He was one of those eager, nervous types, and he didn't look like a construction foreman, more like an executive. It was obvious he was out of his depth. Bobby Carter turned back to the injuries. Somehow she didn't think she was seeing mechanical trauma. It just doesn't look right. It just didn't look right. No soil contamination of the wound site, no crush injury component. Mechanical trauma of any sort, an auto injury, a factory accident, almost always had some component of crushing. But here there was none. Instead, the man's skin was shredded, ripped across his shoulder, and again across his thigh. It really did look like a maul. On the other hand, most of the body was unmarked, which was unusual for an animal attack. She looked again at the head, the arms, and the hands. The hands. She felt a chill when she looked at the kid's hands. There were short slashing cuts on both palms and bruises on the wrists and forearms. She had worked in Chicago long enough to know what that meant. All right, she said, wait outside. Why? Ed said, alarmed. He didn't like that. Do you want me to help him or not? She said, and pushed him out the door and closed it in on his face. She didn't know what was going on, but she didn't like it. Manuel hesitated. I continue to watch? Yes, she said. She reached for her little Olympus point and shoot. She took several snapshots of the injury, lifting her light for a better view. It really did look like bites, she thought. Then the kid groaned, and she put her camera aside and bent toward him. His lips moved, his tongue thick. Raptor, he said. Losa raptor. At those words, Manuel froze and stepped back in horror. What does it mean? Bobby said. Manuel shook his head. I do not know, doctor. Losa raptor no es español. No? It sounded to her like Spanish. Then please continue to wash him. No, doctor, he wrinkled his nose. Bad smell, and he crossed himself. Also, he did the sign of the cross. They're making him look like a bumpkin already. Damn. Bobby looked again at the slippery foam streaked across the wound. She touched it, rubbing it between her fingers. It seemed almost like saliva. The injured boy's lips moved. What?
Isn't it wild, like how they do that in movies and books and all types of things? Is like, oh, this person has a traditional, they make the tradition like somebody doing this on a girls or like believing God to be a dummy or something.
Yeah, like a bumpkin. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, oh, bad smell. And then he did the cross, like, oh, what a unsophisticated, superstitious,
Right.
Bobby looked at the slippery foam streaked across. Sorry, what were you saying? Go ahead. Sorry, I'm
No. That was it.
There's construction going on outside. Okay. Bobby looked at the slippery foam streaked across the wound. She touched it, rubbing it between her fingers. It seemed almost like saliva. The injured boy's lips moved. Wrapped her, he whispered. In a tone of horror, Manuel said, "It bit him." "What bit him?" "Raptor." "What's a raptor?" "It means upia." Bobby frowned. The Costa Ricans were not especially superstitious, but she had heard the upia mentioned in the village before. They were said to be night ghosts, faceless vampires who kidnap small children. According to the belief, the upia had once lived in the mountains of Costa Rica, but now inhabited the islands offshore. Manuel was backing away, murmuring and crossing himself. There we go again. "It is not normal, this smell," he said. "It is the upia." Bobby was about to order him back to work when the injured youth opened his eyes and sat straight up on the table. Manuel shrieked in terror. The injured boy moaned and twisted his head, looking left and right with wide staring eyes, and then he explosively vomited blood. He immediately went into convulsions, his body vibrating, and Bobby grabbed for him, but he shuddered off the table onto the concrete floor. He vomited again. There was blood everywhere. Ed opened the door, saying, "What the hell's happening?" And when he saw the blood, he turned away, his hand to his mouth. Bobby was grabbing for a stick to put in the boy's clenched jaws, but even as she did it, she knew it was hopeless. And with a final spastic jerk, he relaxed and lay still. She bent to perform mouth to mouth, but Manuel grabbed her shoulder fiercely, pulling her back. "No," he said. "The upia will cross over." "Manuel, for God's sake, no." He stared at her fiercely. "No, you do not understand these things." Bobby looked at the body on the ground and realized that it didn't matter. There was no possibility of resuscitating him. Manuel called for the men, who came back into the room and took the body away. Ed appeared, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, muttering, "I'm sure you did all you could." And then she watched as the men took the body away back to the helicopter and lifted it thunderously up into the sky. "It is better," Manuel said. Bobby was thinking about the boy's hands. They had been covered with cuts and bruises in the characteristic pattern of defense wounds. She was quite sure he had not died in a construction accident. He had been attacked, and he had held up his hands against his attacker. "Where is this island they've come from?" she asked. "In the ocean, perhaps 120 miles offshore." "Pretty far for a resort," she said. Manuel watched the helicopter. "I hope they never come back." Well, she thought at least she had pictures. But when she turned back to the table, she saw that her camera was gone. The rain finally stopped later that night. Alone in the bedroom behind the clinic, Bobby thumbed through her tattered paperback Spanish dictionary. The boy had said raptor, and despite Manuel's protest, she suspected it was a Spanish word. Sure enough, she found it in her dictionary. It meant ravisher or abductor. That gave her pause. The sense of the word was suspiciously close to the meaning of upia. Of course, she did not believe in superstition, and no ghost had cut those hands. What had the boy been trying to tell her? From the next room, she heard groans. One of the village women was in the first stage of labor, and Elena Morales, a local midwife, was attending to her. Bobby went into the clinic room and gestured to Elena to step out for a moment. "Elena, sí, doctor? Do you know what is a raptor?" Elena was gray-haired and 60, a strong woman with a practical, no-nonsense air. In the night beneath the stars, she found and said, "Raptor? Yes, you know this word?" "Sí," Elena nodded. "It means a person who comes in the night and takes away a child." "A kidnapper?" "Yes." "A upia?" Her whole manner changed. "Do not say this word, doctor." "Why not?" Do not speak of Upia now, Elena said, firmly nodding her head towards the groans of a laboring woman. It is not wise to say this word now. But does a raptor bite and cut his victims? Bite and cut? Elena said, puzzled. No, doctor, nothing like this. A raptor is a man who takes a new baby. She seemed irritated by the conversation, impatient to end it. Elena started back towards the clinic. I will call you when she's ready, doctor. I think 1 hour more, perhaps 2. Bobby looked at the stars and listened to the peaceful lapping of the surf at the shore. In the darkness, she saw the shadows of the fishing boats anchored offshore. The whole scene was quiet, so normal. She felt foolish to be talking of vampires and kidnapped babies. Bobby went back into her room, remembering again that Manuel had insisted it was not a Spanish word. Out of curiosity, she looked in the little English dictionary, and to her surprise, she found the word there too, raptor, derivative of Latin raptor, plunderer, French raptus, bird of prey. That's what it's a definition, bird of prey. Okay, that was it. That was the first chapter.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff there, you know.
Again, they made the
Jurassic Park,
midwife
man.
look stupid, right?
You said what?
They made the midwife look stupid as well.
Oh, yeah.
But it's normal. Even I would have the logic not to be like talking about that in front of a pregnant lady in labor.
Mm.
Do you believe in the chupacabra?
Wait, what was that word they were saying? Obla? What was it?
Yeah, Upia, Hupia. I've never heard of it before. Maybe
It
it's
sounds like
made
a
up. I'm not
demon
sure.
or something.
Yeah, it does.
Like a
It does,
voodoo.
but there's so much story, not just in Costa Rica, but I told you, like, people won't let their child be alone. Like, one parent or grandparent will be all night taking, like, a vigil over the baby when they're very small.
Right. Which makes sense, you know, because there are entities that seem to, you know, mess with people at night.
Prey on children. But then there's like the witch stories, right? In Mexico, they have the stories of witches that will come and eat your baby. Or they just take the essence, like they take the essence of the baby and the baby dies.
There's um there's a book by St. Augustine called City of God, and in City of God he goes over a lot of demonic entities and vampires and all types of paranormal, you know, and kind of breaks down what these things are, and it's pretty interesting.
Do you think it's real?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, have you guys ever
I
heard
mean,
of
why
Rosemary's
should a
Baby?
mother, why should people lie? Like, just local people, that have lost a child, like, and it's the same story again and again. And then why should people who have jobs like take like lose nights of sleep, if it wasn't real?
I think that you know, it's just really like in the secular world where everybody's so obsessed with materialism and they don't believe in the spiritual, like it's easier to denounce kind of paranormal things. Uh, like, you know, Orthodoxy and religion in the future points out, like the UFO phenomenon is obviously demonic, and the demons can take any form they want, essentially.
Right.
You know, so it's like, and they can, you know, have seemingly physical objects that you can touch, feel, see, smell, and all this other things. You know, they gave a monk a cloak This is in the life of Saint Martin of Tours. They gave a monk a cloak from heaven, supposedly, and then when it was under the eyes of Saint Martin and these other monks, this cloak disappeared. And then it started shift. There was some shifting into different entities where it was like Christ and pink light, and then it turned into a demon, and it turned into this other thing. It's like depending on the person, it can't keep form because the grace of God, the energies of God, with certain people, it can keep form. There's really no limit to what they can do if God allows it. And it could be
But
for someone to
it
convert.
fail, right? It's not a permanent illusion.
No, and there
Like
usually isn't.
with the eye, or if you have like the grace of God, you can sort of see.
Right. If discernment is called like the highest gift a man can receive from God. So there was this instance where a monk was seen an angel, what he thought to be an angel, and this angel had told him to follow it. Well, the angel had somehow created an illusion to where he thought he was walking to one place, but he wasn't walking in that place really.
This I've
And,
heard so many times in Mexico. This story that
and
walking home from work, it's like it's as if they're walking in a loop, like the same landscape repeats again and again and again, and you never get to the destination. And they're trying to tire you out, to weaken you, and to
mhm.
get you scared.
So this monk thinks he's walking somewhere, and it's really an illusion, and the demon is trying to get him to walk off of a cliff. Well, he ends up making the sign of the cross and then seeing that he's about to walk off a cliff.
Oh, snap.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. And I've had a similar experience to that where I thought it was deja vu, but it wasn't. It was something weirder. It was like I was like what you're talking about, like walking in a neighborhood over and over again or something. It was in New York.
Wow.
So we're really weird.
And did you start to feel anxious?
Yeah, I just didn't understand what was happening. You know what I mean? I was like, what? Like,
Right.
I just walked by this, and it kind of like, it felt like time wasn't, like, time kind of did something strange. And shortly after that, I ended up walking into a neighborhood, and it was like a long gate, and it was painted red, and it had like these demonic gargoyles on each spoke of the gate.
Uh,
Yeah, and the neighborhood was like a really bad drug neighborhood, like people like selling heroin and stuff.
oh.
I don't know. It was weird. It's very strange.
What do you think, Nero? You think it's real?
I mean, I assume so. Have you got? I mean, in some form or another.
There is also like the reason for constant vigilance of the baby is they say they can show pretty pictures or flowers at the baby and lure them out of the crib as well. So they can use the illusion to lure the baby close enough to where they can sort of inhale the essence, and that's it.
Have you ever heard of Rosemary's Baby?
I have.
Watched it, but I've heard of the film.
She gives birth to Antichrist, right?
Well, yeah. If you see who all's involved in that movie, it's very connected to a lot of other stuff. Have you ever looked into that, Anna?
Hey, man, I'm
Not
going to
too
sleep,
much.
guys. Good night.
Oh,
Oh,
good night, Unseen.
It was good
good
talking
night.
to you guys. Later.
You
You
too.
too.
Yeah,
Take care. God bless.
Peace
you
out,
as
Girl
well.
Scout.
Later, man.
Well,
I haven't looked into it too much, no, because I'm shit scared of all of that. So I try to keep away from horror films.
well, I've never watched the movie, but uh, you should read the Wikipedia about that and all the people associated with that movie and etc. You'll it'll be very enlightening, I guess you should say.
I know what happened with The Exorcist. I was quite into that film, and kind of like the curse of it or whatever. It cursed everybody that made it.
So, I mean, I have a lot to say on that stuff too, but I'm a little, it's a little, I'm a little distracted because I actually can do a lot of research into that. Like, yeah, that's a huge, quite a huge topic actually. If you start looking into those occult ties of those movies and who was involved in those movies, and it's yeah, extremely disturbing situation. The Rosemary's Baby thing, I'll just tell you this, is like, you know who Roman Polanski is, right?
Yeah, wasn't he killed by some kind of cult?
Well, no, he's not. He wasn't killed. His wife was killed by Manson's family,
Oh, right.
by the
Right, but
Mansons.
he survived. That's right.
Well,
Yeah.
he wasn't there at the time,
Oh
but
shit.
but but the woman in that movie was his wife.
What do you mean? He cast his wife?
In Rosemary's Baby, that was his wife, and he made the movie.
Okay, Rosemary's Baby is a 1968 American psychological horror film written and directed by Roman Polanski, based on Ira Levin's 1967 novel. Mia Farrow, that's it. The film stars Mia Farrow as a newlywed living in Manhattan who becomes pregnant. So Mia Farrow is played by who?
Oh, you know, you're right. Mia Farrow was the one who played in the movie, um, but my point is, like, he made that movie, and then right after that, uh,
The wife dies, right? Like a sacrifice. And she was pregnant too, wasn't she?
but she acted in another movie called The Fearless Vampire Killers, made by Roman Polanski. So,
But didn't she die pregnant?
yes, she did,
Right.
and
So it's
they did that in order to usher in a race war, allegedly.
what do you mean?
So the Mansons allegedly were trying to usher in a race war for their religion, essentially.
By that killing?
Correct. I mean, I don't think that that's the real story, but that's one of the stories that they told about that.
Daddy.
So,
I see. So it says here the film deals with themes related to paranoia, women's liberation, Catholicism, and the occult. Women's liberation. What does it have to do with women's liberation? In 1965, Rosemary Woodhouse and her husband, stage actor Guy, toured the Bramford, a large Renaissance revival apartment building in Manhattan. They noticed the previous tenant, an elderly woman who recently died, displayed odd behaviors. For example, she moved heavy furniture in front of a linen closet she had still been using. Despite warnings from their current landlord and friend Hutch about the Bramford's dark past, Rosemary and Guy move in. In the basement laundry room, Rosemary meets a young woman, Terry Gianofrio, a recovering drug addict whom Minnie and Roman cast to bed the Woodhouse's elderly neighbors have taken in. The Woodhouses first meet the Cassavetes when they return home to find Terry dead of an apparent suicide, having jumped from the Cassavetes' 7th-floor apartment. Oh my God. The Woodhouses have dinner at the Cassavetes' apartment the following evening, but Rosemary finds them meddlesome. She's bothered when Minnie offers her Terry's pendant as a good luck charm, claiming it contains tannis root. Unexpectedly, Guy, initially reluctant to socialize with the Cassavetes, becomes seemingly fascinated with Roman, visiting him often, repeatedly. Guy is cast in a prominent play after the lead actor inexplicably goes blind. With his career flourishing, Guy wants him and Rosemary to procreate. On the night that they plan to conceive, Minnie brings over individual cups of chocolate mousse for their dessert. When Rosemary complains that it has a chalky undertaste, Guy angrily brands her as ungrateful. Rosemary consumes a bit more to mollify Guy, then discreetly discards the rest. Soon after, she grows dizzy and passes out. In a dream state, Rosemary hallucinates being raped by a demonic presence. The next morning, Guy explains the scratches covering her body by claiming he did not want to miss baby night. And she simply did not remember them, doing intercourse, having passed out from his exhaustion. He stated that he had since cut his nails. Oh my God. What? Rosemary becomes pregnant, the baby due on June 28th. The elated Cassavetes insist that Rosemary go to their close friend, Dr. Abraham Saperstein, a prominent obstetrician, rather than her own physician, Dr. Hill. During her first trimester, Rosemary suffers severe abdominal pains and loses a considerable amount of weight. By Christmas, her gaunt appearance alarms her friends, as well as Hutch, who has been researching the Bramford story. Before Hutch can share his findings with Rosemary, he falls into a mysterious coma. Rosemary, unable to withstand the pain, insists on seeing Hill, while Guy argues against it, perceiving Saperstein will be offended. As they argue, the pain suddenly stops, and Rosemary feels the baby move for the first time. 3 months later, Hutch's friend Grace Cardiff informs Rosemary about his death. Prior to passing away, he briefly regained consciousness and instructed to give Rosemary a book on witchcraft, all of them witches, along with the cryptic message, "The name is an anagram." Using Scrabble tiles, Rosemary works out that Roman Cassavet is an anagram for Stephen Mercado, the son of a former Bramford resident and reputed Satanist. She suspects that the Cassavetes and Saperstein belong to a coven and want her babe. Guy discounts this and later throws the book away, making Rosemary suspicious. Terrified, she goes to Hill for help, but Hill deduces she is hysterical and calls Saperstein. He arrives with Guy to drive her home, and the pair threaten to commit her to a psychiatric hospital if she does not comply. Oh my God. Rosemary locks herself into so I guess that's the female empowerment angle. It's like, oh, hysterical woman. So Rosemary locks herself into the apartment. Somehow coven members infiltrate it, and Saperstein sedates Rosemary, who goes into labor and gives birth. When Rosemary awakens, she is informed the baby was stillborn. As she recovers, though, she notices her pump breast milk is being saved rather than discarded. She stops taking her prescribed pills, becoming less groggy. When Rosemary hears an infant crying, Guy claims tenants with a newborn have moved in upstairs. Believing her baby is alive, Rosemary discovers a hidden door in the linen closet leading directly into the Cassavetes' apartment. Oh shit, the same closet the previous tenant had blocked and the same hidden door the coven members had used to access the Woodhouses' apartment. Guy, the Castevet, Saperstein, and other coven members are gathering around a bassinet draped in black with an upside-down cross hanging over it. Peering inside, Rosemary is horrified and demands to know what is wrong with her baby's eyes. Roman proclaims that the child Adrian is the son of Satan and the supposed Antichrist who inherited his father's eyes. Roman urges Rosemary to mother her child, promising she does not have to join the coven and that Adrian will spare her life in the future. When Guy attempts to calm her, assuring that they will be rewarded and then can conceive their own children, she spits in his face. Upon hearing the infant's cries, however, Rosemary agrees. The film closes with Rosemary gently rocking Adrian's cradle. Oh my God. Casting for Rosemary's Baby began in summer of 1967 in Los Angeles. Polanski originally envisioned Rosemary as a robust, full-figured girl next door type and wanted Tuesday Weld or his own fiance, Sharon Tate. That's the name, Sharon Tate. So he wanted Sharon Tate, his fiance, to play the role, but instead, it ended up being Mia Farrow.
But yeah, if you look deep into that whole thing, I mean, it's a very deep thing that, yeah. I mean, it goes as deep as you can imagine. I mean, it goes into World War II and Hitler and all kinds of other shit. So, I mean, it's pretty deep. Yeah.
The movie, or are you talking about the Polanskis?
Yeah, Polanski and all that shit. I mean, it's just, like it's, yeah, it's. I don't know the full, every little detail, but like the more you look into it, it's like, it's yeah. I mean,
Well, here, look at Sharon Tate's bio, right? Died August 9, 1969, age 26. Sharon Marie Tate Polanski was an actress and model. During the 60s, she appeared in advertisements and small television roles before appearing in films as well as working as a model. She was hailed as Hollywood's most promising newcomers, being compared favorably with the late Marilyn Monroe. She made her film debut in 1961 as an extra in Barabbas with Anthony Quinn. She next appeared in the British mystery horror film Eye of the Devil 1966 and co-starred in the 1967 film Don't Make Waves. Her first major role was Jennifer North in 1967 American drama film Valley of the Dolls, which earned her a Golden Globe Award nomination. The role would help her to become a rising sex symbol of Hollywood, appearing in a Playboy photo shoot by filmmaker Roman Polanski, her future husband. Like, what kind of husband-wife relationship did they have? Gosh. That year, she also performed in the comedy horror film The Fearless Vampire Killers. That's the one you got. Directed by Roman Polanski as well. Tate's last completed film, 12+1, that's the name of the film, was released posthumously in 1969. She was murdered by Manson family cult. She was 8.5 months pregnant.
there you go. Yeah, and when you realize that Manson was tied to the Beach Boys, he was tied to a lot of Hollywood people, he was tied into sex trafficking, he was tied into Scientology, Process Church. I mean, it's just a really deep rabbit hole. And Polanski was probably involved in Polish intelligence, which was allegedly like the people who actually defeated Hitler. Actually, is like actually the spy network in Poland. So, yeah, I'm not saying that that's true, but that seems to be some seems to be some sort of evidence for that kind of stuff going on. So yeah,
Very interesting stuff for sure.
yeah. Well, and also, you ever heard of Folgers Coffee?
Yeah, I took
The
you to get them in one of my videos. And my
the
coffee.
heir to the Folger coffee dynasty was her best friend, and she also got killed at the same time.
You mean Sharon Tate?
Yeah, go look at go click on the link to the murder
Okay.
and look at the people who were killed, and it was the daughter of the Folger Empire who was also killed at the same time.
Abigail Folger?
That's it.
Yeah.
Take a look at her. Yep.
Abigail Folger. Died August 9, 1969, born 1943. So how old is she? 43 to 63 would be 26 as well. Same age.
Yep. And then read who her parents were.
Parents, let's see. We haven't given it here. Abigail Folger. Peter Folger, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Let me see here. Wiki. Oh, they have a Polish name as well. Abigail. I guess they all married Polish guys or what? There it is. The occupants of the house at Cielo Drive that evening were movie actress Sharon Tate, the wife of film director Roman Polanski, who was 8.5 months pregnant, her friend and former lover, oh my God. Like, what kind of a marriage is this? Her friend and former lover, Jay Sebring, and a noted celebrity hairstylist, Polanski's friend, and aspiring screenwriter, Wojciech Frykowski, and Frykowski's girlfriend, Abigail Folger, heiress to the Folgers coffee fortune and daughter of Peter Folger. Folgers Coffee is a brand of ground instant and single pod coffee. Who is the... There it is. Okay. Folger. The precursor of the Folger Company was founded in 1850 in San Francisco, California, as the pioneer steam coffee and spice mills. Prior to that, Californians had to purchase green coffee beans and roast them and grind them on their own. The mill's founding owner, William H. Bovee, saw the opportunity to produce roasted and ground coffee ready for brewing. Bovee hired newly arrived 15-year-old carpenter J.A. Folger to help him build his mill. Folger had come from Nantucket Island with his two older brothers during the California Gold Rush. In the 1850s, kerosene became a cheaper alternative to whale oil, Nantucket's dominant business. Many Nantucket ships were repurposed to instead bring in coffee from South America to San Francisco. After working at the Bovee's mill for nearly a year, Folger had saved enough money to buy a part of the company. How is that possible? In 1 year? After working at the Bovee's mill for nearly a year, not even a year, Folger had saved up enough money to, at 15 years old, to buy part of the company and went to mine for gold. He agreed to carry samples of coffee and spices, taking orders from grocery stores along the way. Upon his return to San Francisco in 1865, Folger became a full partner at Pioneer Steam Coffee and Spice Mills. In 1872, he bought out the other partners and renamed the company J.A. Folger & Co. In 1861, James Folger married. He and his wife had 4 children, and 2 of the children worked for the family business. In 1889, Folger died, and his oldest son, James A. Folger II, became president of J.A. Folger & Co. at the age of 26. In the 1900s, the company began to grow dramatically primarily due to a salesman named Frank P. Atha. Atha sold coffee in the California area, but proposed to James Folger II that he open and manage a Folgers coffee plant in Texas. The company grew exponentially after Atha opened the Texas plant. Under the mid-20th century leadership of Peter Folger, the brand became one of the principal coffee concerns in North America. In 1960, the construction of a Folger Coffee Company plant in New Orleans was started due to new shipping routes from Central America. Procter & Gamble acquired Folgers in 1963 and removed the apostrophe from its name. During P&G's ownership, Folgers became the #1 coffee brand in America. On August 9, 1969, company heiress Abigail Folger was stabbed to death in Los Angeles as part of the Manson family's Tate LaBianca murders. P&G announced in January 2008 that Folgers would be spun off into a separate Cincinnati-based company, but reversed itself that June, announcing that Folgers would be acquired at the end of 2008 by the J.M. Smucker Company. Utilizing a rare financial technique called a reverse Morris Trust, Smucker purchased Folgers in November 2008, made it a subsidiary whose products led the $10 billion USD at-home retail coffee category.
Yeah, and the underlying story there is that coffee is basically a product of the,
What,
you know,
Gold Rush?
well, it's basically the English monarchy is heavily involved with intelligence operations and coffee and stuff like that. Like, so that's the other side of the.
Mm.
So you have like British intelligence and Polish intelligence and Hollywood people, and you know what I'm saying? It's like, let's just say a lot of people around Roman Polanski died of
Weird
strange
stuff. Yeah.
events. Yeah.
And then
And
what
then,
is this about Folger buying a stake in the company with less than a year's work?
yeah, well, that's
He
probably
bought out the company, like,
well, and remember, he's from Nantucket, and all the Nantucket ships were used to come and import stuff. So again, it's probably
oil.
some sort of dark money. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they're saying here the whale oil, they were used to transport whale oil and then kerosene. And then
Right.
sorry, not kerosene, but coffee when kerosene replaced
Took
whale
over.
oil.
Exactly. See what I mean? So yeah, you start seeing like, okay, so this is actually like, yeah. So anyway, I think that
It's like the product can vary, but the network stays the same.
correct. That's right. And then again, who knows exactly what was going on, but it looks like Procter and Gamble bought them out not long before Abigail was killed. So
Right.
I don't know exactly what's going on, but I'm just saying like it's been said that the coffee trade was actually like a cover for a lot of intelligence operations with England and stuff like that. So I'm not saying that's true, but it has been rumored as such. So yeah,
I
so
think
I
we
don't.
covered some good stuff here.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, and I want to continue going, but I have to go do some family stuff before everybody goes to sleep. But I think that
I
was
think
I think we covered a really good gambit of things, I guess you could say. Yeah.
how you gonna review that movie? How do you think we could do it?
I'm not sure yet, but I have kind of an idea with Discord and Streamlabs. I think I can do it,
Got it.
but I haven't quite figured out.
Or maybe record it and then upload or some shit.
Yeah, well, I have to still cut out
Or
the
do it
audio of
live
the.
on
I have to cut.
StreamYard.
I just have to cut out the audio of the movie. So I think I can
Yes,
do it,
how
but
do you do that is what I'm saying, like on a live. Like it's easy to do in post. I guess you could play it muted.
well, I don't have to watch the stream for you guys to see it. So, but the thing, because I've already seen the movie, so really I could just let you guys talk as you're watching the movie, and
I've
then just
seen
see
that
how.
movie a billion times, like no
Yeah,
joke.
yeah, me too. But Machine hasn't seen it, so I might just let him share a
No
screen
way.
because he's probably going to be the one who has to pause it because he actually hasn't seen the movie. So, yeah,
Oh, that's gonna be a treat.
yeah.
Seeing him
Because
watch it for the first time. I want to see what he thinks.
the way I'm going to set it up before we watch it is like talk about the potential mythological, kabbalistic, gnostic themes that was embedded into it because I think Crichton was obviously did his thing, but the people who wrote it for Spielberg, obviously, the way that they frame the shots and stuff like that, like you definitely start getting this kind of like Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve and other kind of characters seem to be kind of like, and I think people like Machine and Unseen are gonna see it and they're gonna be like, oh shit, this is like this kind of Kabbalah stuff or whatever, Jew stuff. I don't know. But again, I think a lot of these movies, like you can see that they tried to like put in certain framing of it.
It's biblical, not biblical, right?
Well, I think it's beyond biblical. I think it's like some very like occult
Yeah, it's
stuff.
it's a cult. Like that's why it's not biblical, but they still pull from that.
Yeah, so they
From
make it seem as if it's like about biblical stuff, but actually it's like occult stuff that's hidden behind the biblical stuff. Right. So I think that's kind of like what I'm going to try to
they
set up. So
appropriate biblical or whatever, appropriate from Christianity.
yeah, because I have all my little AI notes, but it still goes back to like things that I notice. So I just ask it about things that I notice, and it kind of like put the notes together for me. But yeah, I think it's pretty good because yeah, you guys are probably going to see more than I will. But I've seen that movie a million times, and like I remember watching it like a year ago, and I was like, "There's something weird going on here that I didn't notice before," which is like, you know, they're holding the egg, and the little lizard comes out. The little raptor comes out or whatever. And also the fact that they made like the raptor the star of the show. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
and,
think that's kind of it.
have you seen the newer ones?
I saw one of the newest ones.
It's like dinosaur rights and shit. That's what's on the newer movies, and
It's
they're
like what?
dinosaur rights.
Well, that's what.
Like
That's really what they're smuggling in. Ultimately, is like this weird like humans are evil and bad, and that's really what they're That's really what they're smuggling in. I think.
but poor dinosaurs.
Yeah, the poor monstrous creations that we created against God. Yeah, essentially. But I'll end it here, and then we'll. I'm sure we'll schedule some other stuff soon. But it was a pleasure.
Same here. Have a good evening. Blessings to you. Thanks for having me on.
Have a good morning, or
Thank
evening,
you.
or afternoon.
It's afternoon.
Okay. Bye bye.